Yo, 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 it is Tuesday. You know what time it is. It is for Ashmatic Analysis. Same time, same place each week. Now, you're probably wondering why I got a smile on my face. It's because of this man next to me. I finally get to do a show. I want him to break it down. I want him to break down that loss. Yeah, because it needs to be broken down, right? And we're not going to get straight into it. I'm going to ask you the niceties. I hope you are well, my son. How are you doing?
Yeah, man, I'm good. The family's blessed. What more can I say, man? How you doing, bro? You good?
I am as good as can be, like you. Family's blessed, all good. And you know what? I know people in the chat today, especially our regulars, are gonna make this fun. Like, even though everyone's paid off, it's gonna
Mm,
be a fun night. So look,
mm,
obviously we lost the North London derby, right? And you
mm,
know what? The first thing I thought of, because obviously you done the pump up and I did the watch along.
yeah.
And the first thing I said to myself was, Deji's in trouble. Deji is in trouble this week.
He's been on a lot of shows. He's been on a lot of shows.
Oh
He couldn't make
yeah,
it today, but yeah, he's been busy, lad. He's been a busy boy. So
domination in the location.
literally everyone's using it against him, like raw.
Oh
Like at
my
the court
god,
of law, like yeah, they've got him. They've got him nice.
got him
So
nice. Got him nice. But anyway, let's get into it. Let's get our panel out, right? So first of all, let's welcome back a regular. He's on this channel a lot. He's always helping us out. But a good welcome to Dan E. Are you well?
Same Spurs, different day, mate. But apart from that, all cool. Yourselves?
All good, all good.
blessings, bro.
And making his debut on the channel. We've got two deputants tonight. You know, they said yes, they'll come on, and I picked them to come on after the North London derby, and it was either going to go one way or the other. So I don't know whether to feel sorry for them or happy for them. But first of all, I'd like to make a big welcome to Jim from Oh So Spurs. Are you well?
I'm very good, thanks, guys. Cheers, have me on.
No problem at all. And the next one, you've seen him online before. He's got a lot of TikTok followers, I hear. You know, I'm getting too old for TikTok, but you know how it goes. But I like to give a good welcome to Gary. Are you well? And can you hear us?
I can hear you. I'm not actually like physically well. I'm quite sick today, but I'm well spiritually.
Oh,
Good.
jeez, that's what the Tottenham did to you. Oh,
This is what Tottenham do to you.
hey, Foster Cogley, you're making up to do, man. A young one, immune system's under stress, mentally, physically. Aye.
Yeah, I know. I woke up with a cold right after. I didn't know if it was a result or anything, but yeah, thank you for having me on.
No problem at all. Now, look, we're going to have to talk about it. We're going to have to get into it. But obviously, we lost 1-0 to Arsenal in the North London derby. Third defeat at home in a row to the Gooners. A lot of Spurs fans reacting really negatively, which, look, at the end of the day, I'm always going to say this, right? If there's one game that Spurs fans are allowed to be a little bit negative, right, and a bit upset, it's always going to be after Arsenal. Other games, you kind of take it with a pinch of salt, but the Arsenal game is the one where I go, actually, just let them go with it. And you've seen a lot of Spurs fans who've backed Spurs over the last few months are starting to go, what's going on here? However, Ash, talk to me. How are you feeling now?
Yeah, no, I'm cool, man. Listen, it was the humbling that most Spurs fans needed. It's an ugly kind of result because it was a 1-0 and it was our third loss in a row. That's what it is, reality. Third loss. A lot of us went into it thinking we cannot afford another L against one of our bitter rivals again. But yeah, it just shows the levels where we're at. They're a lot more streetwise, in my opinion. They're a lot more mature or a lot more experienced. They've got a little bit more nous about them. It's not just the players, the coach as well. As much as we make fun of him, he was very animated on the sidelines, which we expected. And he was doing this, within the first 10 minutes, and it started to pay off. We started to see some of the tactical tweaks in game, which made a difference, I felt, because I thought we started off quite well. And I thought Arteta addressed it straight away. And I thought that was really the difference on the day between getting the L and the W, in my opinion. We'll probably get more into it, but I just felt like with Spurs, we just lacked a lot of ideas in the final third. And I'll leave it at that. I won't go any deeper because I'm sure everyone else has got a lot to say on it as well.
Dan, gonna come to you a couple days in. How are you feeling now, and what you feeling towards the whole situation at the club?
I think towards the whole situation, I think the thing I was most wound up with after that Arsenal game is I really wasn't bothered because it was nothing I didn't expect. We played right into Arsenal's hands. They completely controlled us the whole game. People come out with this stuff of, yeah, but we had possession, this and that. Yeah, because they let us have possession. Arsenal changed their tactics to play against us, something our manager is incapable of doing. And we played right into their hands. They just took their time, just waited. They didn't even get out of second gear, had two of their best players missing, and done us on one of the regular ones we get done on, and that's a set piece. I think we was quite surprised they didn't score another. I didn't feel we looked like any sort of threat of scoring whatsoever. Rattled them in the first 15 minutes, I'd say, but I'd say they had complete control of the game because it was going the way they wanted it to go, basically. Possession to me means nothing when you don't create chances. And did we even have one clear-cut chance? I think maybe one, because we didn't have none against Newcastle. So it was nothing I weren't expecting. I thought we'd get a draw, but I got that one wrong.
Jim, I'm going to bring you in. How are you feeling a couple days after the North London derby? Like, everyone else is kind of, a lot of people down. Some people are like, okay, I'm moving on. You know, we've got commentary tomorrow. But how are you feeling after it all? It's Tuesday night now. Champions League has started. How are you feeling towards the whole situation?
No, I'm always gutted when we lose a North London derby. Like people on this pod today, I'm sure there's fellow season ticket holders on here. I've been going for 15 years, and losing to them 3 times in a row is just it's a miserable experience. It ruins my weekend, it ruins my week, all that stuff. But let the dust settle, and I tried to think about it, and I think quite rightly what Dan said. There's the issues were there going forward. You know, there's something though. I just kind of went into the game with the mindset of, hey, we're playing the second best team in the league that are as good as Man City at the moment over the course of the season. And those two sides are simply years and miles ahead of us. The reasons why they're miles ahead of us, that's a different debate that I think we could get quite heated about, and it involves multiple facets of our club. But right now, it was quite simplified that the second best team was playing the 5th or 6th best team. And in the first minute, Arsenal got a corner, and it was right in front of me in the south stand. And then Saka, instead of picking it up and running to the corner flag, just started really slowly ambling over and deliberately kicked the ball away. And I thought, shit, you guys are playing for a set piece, 1-0. That's the kind of game this is going to be, isn't it? And it makes sense from their eyes, right? 22 goals from set pieces last season. You look at Spurs as an evaluation, you go, your weakness is our biggest strength. Let's go for it. But it wasn't all complete. It wasn't like it was a diabolical performance in my eyes. I thought defensively, we actually performed pretty well. They are a very good attacking side, and we did keep them relatively at arm's length. And I appreciate they weren't going all out attack and playing that way with us. But Ange also, you saw our wing backs weren't pushing up in the way they had in previous games. He'd clearly set them out to say, don't push up as high as you normally do. They'll whack us on the counter. That's what they're going to try and do today. So we did kind of try and counter that a little bit. But my biggest frustration in the game was actually Romero, because I rate him so highly, and I think he's a player that has potential to be whatever level he wants to be. But since those links in the transfer window to Real Madrid and other clubs, I just feel like he's gone from wearing the badge of pride at being a vice captain to maybe kind of, well, I'm the big cheese in this team, and just occasionally switching off a little bit more than he used to. Maybe that's
gone. He's gone.
I think mentally,
end of the season, he's gone.
Yeah, I think mentally you're right. He's something's changed, and it's quite obvious what that probably is. Yeah, but anyway, yeah, that's my source. I'm not that. I still think we're not going to be. It's not a diabolical loss. I think we're going to go on this season to finish in the top 6. Whether that's good or not is your personal opinion. Where you believe we're going as a club. I'm fully behind Postecoglou still, and I'm fully behind this project. If in in 18 months. And I get it. Everyone's sick of hearing this. Everyone is sick of it because Ange has the cloud of Conte, Nuno, Mourinho hanging over him, where everyone was told to be patient 3 times in a row, and we've messed it up every time. And now another guy's come and everyone's saying, be patient, trust him. And I get why people are saying I'm not waiting again. But I am going to be patient one more time. And I do believe in him. So there you go. That's my take.
No problem. No, thank you. And Gary, bring you in a couple of days from it now. How are you feeling about the whole situation?
It just hurts losing a North London derby. I'm sure you guys have got friends and family who are Arsenal fans. I have relatives who genuinely, I don't hear from them. I hear from them twice a year, and that's when we lose. They finally find my phone number. But looking at our season as a whole so far, I think Dan said it actually perfectly. We're having this possession. We're dominating teams, but is it really an achievement if teams are just letting you have the ball? I think it's more of a damning indictment on how teams see us as a threat going forward. They don't. They're just letting us have the ball. Come on, try break us down. We're not breaking them down. And then they know that we've got a mistake in us, a lapse of concentration, and then they're just going the other end and capitalizing on it. Ange's system is a system where if they score 1, we score 2. If they score 3, we score 4. Currently, they're scoring 1, we're scoring 0. If they're scoring 2, we're scoring 1. And against Newcastle, it wasn't even us forcing a goal. It was a very, very poor own goal. I've had a lot of confidence in Postecoglou, in the Postecoglou system going into this season. It is a little bit concerning seeing how toothless we are going forward, and it's something that I would like to see change quite quickly. I understand Arsenal is a very good team. Their defense was very, very solid, but I had at no stage of that game did I think we were going to score. Anytime we were in the final third, I was expecting us to lose the ball. I was expecting us to give away a goal kick. I wasn't even really expecting us to retain possession in the final third. We're not actually having any meaningful possession against these teams, and it concerns me when I look at the personnel that's currently playing. I look at the likes of a Timo Werner, and I don't see that dynamism to change something in the final third, change direction at pace, unlock a defense. And I think over the course of the next few games, you're going to see the likes of hopefully a Mikey Moore, Lucas Bergvall, Bredival, those types of players coming in and adding that dynamism, adding that X factor that we're so clearly lacking going forwards.
No, and I couldn't agree more with most of what you said there. But Ash, I'm going to bring you in on something, right? So I've got questions for all of you individually, but Ash, I'm going to bring you on something that probably really concerned me out of everything that came out of this weekend. So I believe Ange was asked something about his set pieces, right? But he said that the biggest problem we've got is that, and I think Eugene brought it up earlier in the chat, was about switching off. Okay. And actually, that got me thinking. Actually, when you think about every goal we've conceded this season, every single one, somebody is switched off. Romero is probably going to get most of the blame for it because obviously most of the goals come from when he switched off. But how in the world is Ange going to fix that? Because if they're switching off at vital moments in the game, and as Dan said, we're having all this possession, and Gary said we're not doing anything in the attack, right? But defensively, we are quite sound, as Jim said. But if we keep switching off, how's he meant to fix this problem if that's going to be the biggest issue going forward?
Well, to be fair, I think it comes down to trust, in my opinion. And if Ange is losing trust in some of our players, then it's down to him as the manager to change it. So if, again, people look at Romero, and if you're a Romero fan, please switch off right now. But if you look at Leicester, he has a lapse of concentration and he leaves Vardy unattended. And so Vardy gets on the wrong side of him. He doesn't actually know where Vardy is. And some people argue, Porro should maybe pick him up because that's in Porro's sight. But there needs to be a communication from your centre back as the leader and vice captain of the back four, who is going to be where, etc., etc. Now, he was in a position where he was marking no one. And as a result of it, Vardy's gone in front of him and he's gone behind him, all in the same sequence. A cross has come in and he scored the goal. So that is some of the points where people are looking at Romero as a leader, as being one of our elder statesmen in the team, more experienced, heading the team, and we're conceding a cross and we're conceding that goal. And we end up dropping points as a result of it. And then you go on to the likes of maybe a Newcastle. So if you look at Newcastle, people will argue that maybe the line should have been higher up with him. At the end of the day, it's a fundamental communication piece where he should be communicating with the back line. I need you guys closer to me. We need to be in shape. And he needs to be barking those orders. So again, if Dragusin, who hasn't normally played with him, he needs to tell him, I need you to step up. Do you know what I mean? And that's down to a communication piece. And then again, against Arsenal, he's allowed Gabriel to peel off him, and he doesn't know where he is. He doesn't know where he is, regardless of if he pushes him, people think it's a foul or not. He needs to be stronger in that position. But the fact that he doesn't know where he is a massive red flag. Now, Postecoglou's getting ripped to pieces about set pieces. Every other journalist is asking him about the set pieces, and he now has a decision to make. Now, obviously, in the press of late,
is just a quick question on obviously about the set piece and then him being questioned. Is he starting to get a bit touchy about it as well?
Yeah, and with good reason, because obviously they have tried to address things. There's this little statement here on one of the ITKs here, one of the aggregators, and it's just saying basically how Nick Montgomery was brought in as one of the coaching staff, and he was tasked to work with the attacking and defending set pieces at training. And what they were doing, for what we've noticed at the moment, it's been spoken about, we're doing a mixture of a hybrid of man-to-man and zonal. So last season it was just zonal. This season we've mixed and mashed two approaches where we get some of our bigger, stronger players tasked with marking out some of their bigger, stronger players. And that's what they're meant to be doing. So for him, it's frustrating because he's now got a senior guy. Before it was Jedinek and Ryan Mason was tasked on, doing set pieces. Now they've got two new guys. They're working on set pieces pretty much every game. They're meant to be working on those set pieces, the tactical approach. But for whatever reason, it's still an issue. And if you're doing things differently, but then your players individually are switching off, how do you then coach that? You have to then make a decision as a manager, and you have to come in and say, look, I need to literally be responsible and say, look, I might have to do a mad decision and take Romero off. Do you know what I mean? So,
well, there is an argument, right? Because obviously there is an argument, obviously, at the moment where you look at Newcastle game where we conceded set pieces last year, but we didn't any this year. That Dragusin was probably part of the reason why we looked a lot better from corners, because actually that's his game. He's good in the air, but we don't really get to see that.
Well, I was going to say also the fact that we lost, we didn't have a striker last season.
Obviously Solanke, Solanke.
Yeah, Solanke. Well. So Solanke is a big reason why, we could defend those set pieces a lot better. Richarlison's been missing for a big part of those seasons, and Kane used to work wonders on those set pieces, and he was able to defend those corners near post or centrally. He was on the end of those things. So the funny thing is, Romero's got no problem attacking set pieces. You know what I mean? Because he's already scored a goal, and last season he was like the highest goal scoring centre back, and a lot of them came from set pieces. So it's just something going on that the coaching staff need to have a serious conversation with him and sort it out. But yeah, I'll end it on that point.
Do you think that the set pieces so far are a genuine concern this season? If you look at it,
100%.
If you look at it across Newcastle, Everton, Arsenal, who are they are good at set pieces, and we've let in one goal against those three teams. Where last season, off the top of my head, we probably let in 5 or 6 in those same fixtures. I guess it's we have to, as a fan base, not let our emotions dictate how we're viewing that set piece, because teams ultimately do concede set pieces. Every team will concede set pieces across a season. Is it a case where we just conceded a set piece, we have to go again and learn from that one, or are we just ignoring some actual noticeable changes in our set piece defending this season? It's not.
No.
I don't actually have an. I'm not putting out my opinion. I don't have an answer. It's just something that I can't really wrap my head around yet.
Okay, we were 17th worst. Was it 16th, 17th worst by the end of last season at set pieces? That's diabolical at the end of the day. No excuse for that. Ange is half to blame for that, at least. Why? Because after 15 games, people sussed us out on set pieces on how weak Vicario was there. Excellent shot stopper, but he's actually looking worse on set pieces. And he even got told, basically, on the press, like, aren't set pieces a bit of a problem for you, Ange? He basically turned around and just, do you know what, I've got bigger fish to fry, basically, and pushed it away. He didn't actually do anything to change that zonal marking until what? Game 35, give or take a game. So again, I put that on Ange. Do we look any different? All right, I'd say we're doing a bit more man marking, which is what I want to see. But really, we've played Leicester, Everton, who are okay at set pieces, Newcastle, who are okay at set pieces. Nothing special, neither of them, but okay. And then we come up against a team that is very good at set pieces, and it just blatantly showed, because that's what they were playing for. That's how they got us. Yeah, time will tell over the next 5 or 6 games if Ange even lasts that long, but we'll have to wait for the next few games.
I do think what Gary's saying, though, is like last season, the set pieces were awful, and the time it took us to address certain things like Vicario, how he was, people would say he's not strong enough, blah, blah, blah. But it was still within our disposal to change the tactics to protect the goalkeeper better from those situations. And there were multiple times last season where you'd lose the ball in the final third and you instantly were clenching your butt cheeks because you were like, we're about to concede a goal the other end. And that repeated pattern of issues, we were turning around in your seats and putting your hands over your eyes when you concede a corner, like it was a penalty. And that went on for 15 games plus in a row before we saw a change in the way we were kind of addressing those. But I would say this season, I have thought I've gone into those first 3 games, and it's way too early to tell. If we go into the next game and concede a corner, I'm fully on board with the criticism that this is not good enough. We need to fix that. But the start of the season, I kind of feel like he's one of the reasons we're worse going forward is because he's asked the wing backs not to be as aggressive and to watch those pockets more on the counter. So we've got less bodies forward, and we haven't figured out a way of compensating for that in attack. And that's an issue that must see some improvement quickly. Because if we keep going through the season without scoring goals, you can't win football matches. It's as simple as that. We're just going to be languishing around in mid-table, which is not acceptable. But I'd say on corners as well, with Montgomery coming in, I did think, I'm not clenching my arse every time we concede a corner at the moment. I'm thinking that looks a bit more, so it looks like we've changed a little bit of the approach. It looks a bit better. I think, Dan, you mentioned zonal marking there. I hate it because I always feel multiple times last season, the back post, you would just see 3 people standing there and 1 Tottenham player, 3 opposition players and 1 Tottenham player. And you just think, you just know what's going to come every time. But this season does feel a bit better drilled. But let's see. I don't think after 4 games we can say he's fixed it. And I don't think we can say it hasn't been fixed either at this point of this season.
I can tell you what has fixed it. I can tell you what has fixed it. The new rule. The new rule that you can't basically touch up the keeper. I mean, if we go back to, let's say, the Arsenal game last season, Ben White kept coming up and basically touching up Vicario, who just flapped his hand at him and said, please go away and leave me alone. Whereas if that was Pickford, he'd have picked him up and thrown him, like a keeper could get away with in the Premier League. And that is Vicario's weak spot. And our players were just standing there letting it happen the majority of the time. Ange saw this happening all the time since Man City and that basically clocked it. Obviously didn't tell the players nothing to sort it out because they weren't doing it. But obviously initiative should come into it as well. So again, I think that is what has saved our ass basically, and we're going to look better on corners as such because people can't go up and touch up the keeper like they could. That's the new rule, isn't it? And that was the biggest problem with Vicario. Because as soon as it'd be a set piece, he'd have 2 or 3 people round him, nudging him, touching him. I mean, for God's sake, Ben White was even coming up to him, peaching his gloves for everything, and nobody done nothing. And Vicario didn't even tell him to go away.
Yeah,
I think that is what is going to help us.
I think it is a massive problem, though. Regardless of that rule, Vicario is still not commanding his 6-yard box at all.
No,
he's still not being a physical presence, and he's still not. And the thing is, as well, if he comes up for some of the crosses and he punches through some of the attackers' players or some of our defenders, we will get the foul. Do you know what I'm saying? Because they're protecting the goalkeepers.
So is the question, and this is a question for everyone to open, is Vicario now becoming an issue? Because actually, let's look at last season, right? At the beginning, no one really knew. Like, I don't remember us conceding many corners at the beginning of last season, even when we're going through our little 10-game flip. It was all certain mistakes. And then Man City highlighted it in the FA Cup, and then it was just literally bang, 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 bang. So is Vicario, like, and now Arsenal have done it to us on Sunday. Will other teams now look at this? Because actually, if you looked at the Everton game, where they had 3 corners in a row, they did exactly the same to Vicario, but because Everton, let's be honest, are absolutely useless this season, they didn't score them. But actually, if that was a better team, like we did Arsenal, they're going to score them. So God.
Yeah, 100%. Go on, sorry.
It was scrappy with Everton, wasn't it?
I was going to say as
like
well.
The defending was scrappy.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say as well, like something on the where we're weak on set. I remember when we signed Van der Ven, and I love him. I think he's like irreplaceable. Apart from the hamstrings, could be replaced. But like he's an outstanding world-class centre back, probably our best bit of business in that transfer window. But one area that when we were looking at him that people were critical of was his aerial strengths. Not that it's awful, just that he was a very average rated centre back in the air, and when it came to set pieces, his dominance there wasn't a dominant strength of his. And Romero's was slightly better, but it also wasn't a strength of Romero's. And then I don't think our wing backs can help compensate that either, and I don't think we have big, tall, commanding central midfielders in there. When we had Harry Kane, I think there was a reason why managers continuously said, get in the box, you're our best header of the ball, I need you at both ends of the pitch compensating for that here. And now we've lost that. I think it was very exposed very quickly that, wait a second, our centre-halves aren't able to do this on their own. The keeper's got a little bit of a weakness here, and people are targeting their lack of confidence now and making it harder for them. But when Dragassin's come in, I think you can see why this guy, if he hadn't been a footballer, when we had signed him, it was apparently he was an athletics, like a professional athlete in jumping or something like that. But anyway, he's a very athletic guy. I think he adds that strength a bit more into our team. I wouldn't mind seeing him come in for a Europa League game starting and showing someone like Romero up a bit, and us going, actually, having people actually question dropping Romero and giving Dragassin a chance to add that to our team. And look, even if it means Romero does need to come back in, at least he's got competition for a spot, and you're going to think he's going to be twice as switched on as he was before. But I just wanted to highlight that. I just don't think our centre-halves are commanding centre-halves in the same way that Toby Alderweireld and Jan Vertonghen and Ledley King and even Michael Dawson would have been in the box. They're just not those types of centre-halves.
Neither of them are good in the air, are they?
No, they're ball-playing
Really?
defenders.
Yeah, neither of them are good in the air. I mean, that's VDV's weakest spot in the air. Whereas Dragusin, I mean, I only watched him play once, but that was against my other team, Inter Milan, and he scored a brilliant header for him. He's very strong in the air. Our other two, they're just...
With the set piece issue as a whole, again, like looking at this season in picture, I think it's being borne out so much more because of our lack of a good attack at the moment, because we're so toothless in attack. That set piece is being borne out so much. That one set piece we conceded meant so much more. If we went and scored 2 goals, we're not speaking about set pieces. We're not doing a whole segment on set pieces. And I think that's how Ange sees it. If we fix our attack and we have a lapse in concentration and concede a set piece, we've scored 2 goals, we've scored 3 goals. We can actually account for that. But right now, we cannot account for any set piece mistake because we're not scoring goals. We're not scoring the amount of goals to actually cover for that set piece, those set piece issues. And it just makes it that we're sitting talking about set pieces rather than we're sitting talking about a 2-1 victory.
Isn't that a proper dated attitude to have, though? You score 3, we score 4. I mean, the last one
yeah,
that was Kevin Keegan.
That's exactly how.
You
That's
cannot
how.
do this.
That's
Is
how
where
Ange
More
Ange
Aussie Ardelia, isn't it?
is out of
Yeah.
This is where Ange is out of his depth and his tactics. The Premier League is too good for him.
I couldn't
for his
imagine. I
tactics.
couldn't imagine Arteta going. If they score 2, we'll score 3. I couldn't imagine.
I can't imagine any
yeah.
manager doing it. I can't imagine any manager doing it in this day and age. Not in the top 5 leagues. Maybe you get away with that in the Scottish Premiership, which is ranked lower than the USA League. But it's obviously showing that he hasn't got much of an idea on how to counter it. Like he's only got one system, one style. You score 3, we score 4.
The only way you get away with it is if you actually score goals, and which not, and that's just our issue.
You'd still give him the best defense on the planet. He will still concede goals with his 2 inverted wing backs and 2 centre backs sitting on the halfway line and no DM to cover the 2 at the back. Give him the best team ever. He will still concede too many goals to ever win a league in the Premier League, Serie A, La Liga, Bundesliga.
Dan, so I kind of agree and kind of disagree with that statement, because I get what you're saying. He has no plan B, but if you gave him the best players in the world, so let's give him Man City, right? Let's give him Man City. If you watch Pep, right? Okay, Pep changes it up a little bit, right? And I'm not going on fully on Pep. If you watch Pep, and sometimes they are left with just 2 at the back. So let's take West Ham, right? That West Ham game, because I'm going to use that as an example. There's a situation where Kudos ends up being on his own because they only have 2 players back, and he ends up hitting the post, right? The difference is that Pep will then go and change it, because he will go, oh crap, we're getting exposed here, because there was no Rodri, right? So they ended up getting exposed. So there is a way that he could do it if he had better players, or better players that could understand the system. Because I'm starting to now look at the players and go, are they really like? There's rumors come out today that he's obviously gone to the team and said, please trust my system, yeah, right? Which is, for us as all Spurs fans, we're going, oh, here we go. These are the rumors that start coming out when someone's on their last legs. But for me personally, I'm looking at going, if Spurs and Ange wants to play this way, they need to have a better quality of player. And I think everyone has kind of suggested that, to do this system. And that's probably what the problem is. I don't think Ange is a crap manager. I just think what it is, his style of play is suited for a certain style of players, and in the Premier League, he's gonna get found out.
I totally get what you're saying, but if you look at Pep, when he used his inverted wing backs, when he only ever had 1 go forward at a time, and then it'd go 3 at the back. Or if both went forward, then who did he put in front of them?
I'll point it out.
John Stones. Yeah. So even when they only had 2 men, like literally on the halfway line, which sort of they have that right to do because they do control the ball up there, whereas we don't. We just get given the ball through the other team's choice. He still had the DM there to come back and cover the 2 at the back if the shit hit the fan, basically. Whereas Ange, he adapts nothing. He changes nothing, basically, bar 1 or 2 minor little bits that really don't have an effect on the game. And when you can see something that is not working, and okay, if he hasn't got the players he's got, who's that down to? Who picked the last 15, 16 players? Who spent over 365 million? Who stated, I choose all these players? Who stated, I've been backed? There's no excuse.
Yeah, I do want to just add, I think the point on the attack being the problem with defence there is a very valid one, and not having good enough. And look, your point down there about who signed the attack, if they're not good enough, that's on him. That's true. I'm not disputing that. Just want to make that clear. But there is a difference when you have Man City and you're going forward with Savinho and Doku, who don't lose the ball often in one-on-one situations. You don't get exposed on the counter very often because you're typically pushing higher up the pitch, and the opposition are retreating and an opposition to counter on you. So that is very true as well. I would say as well, an interesting thing when you look at the league holistically and take a big step back. Man City won the league conceding 35 goals last season, right? That's pretty much a goal a game. That's what we're on. That's what we're doing this season. 1 goal a game is what we're averaging. Now, look, it's 4 games. If after 10 games it's still a goal a game, you have to say defensively there has been an improvement, and you can win the league at that ratio of goals conceded if you can score an average of 2 goals a game, which isn't like an outrageous number to be going for. It's not like gun ho, I'm going for 5-1. that is a good enough defence in line with last season's champions to
No.
win the league. Well, it is because
No.
they
It's
conceded
not.
35 goals last season.
And how
and
many
won the
did they?
league.
How many did they score?
They scored 96 goals.
Significantly more than us. And if we've got such a good defence that can deal with that, and you think this has changed so much, why is it we conceded 61 goals last season? If I remember right, was it 61?
No, I'm not disputing that.
But I'm giving you a reason here. I'm giving you a reason. Yeah. And then that's only two less than what Conte conceded. And look at that shambolic defence he had. And conceding one a game on average, and the way Ange plays, we're just going to concede more and more and more goals once we play the better teams. I.e., we've only beat one top 10 team.
What Jim's saying, if I understand it, so Jim, if I can understand this correct, and I do get it. So he's basically saying that, look, if you look at it right now, we are conceding one a game, right? So that's exactly what Man City did last year, right? So we're not doing as we did last year and conceding 2 a game, because if you look at the 60, how many we conceded, we're conceding 2 a game. So, but if we're only conceding 1 a game over the course of the season, the problem that we've got right now is that we're not doing what we did last year, which was scoring 2 a game, which we were doing last year.
That's what I'm trying to.
Okay. I get it. But look at who we played.
The law of averages is that we're gonna be in games where we're gonna lose 1-0, 2-1. Right, we beat Everton 4-0, but drawing 1-1 with Leicester, because actually our attack is so poor right now from this season to last season. Right, forget the whole winning the league situation. We're just comparing it to Man City, who did win the league, right? And we've got to remember, Arsenal had the best defensive record and still finished second.
Yeah, I'll give you another example. Then
we're going to win the league because we get to
no, I know that. Of course you wouldn't.
What I'm saying is,
mate, I don't think you'd be that silly to say that. So what I'm saying to you then is, if our defence has improved, why did we concede exactly the same goal, exactly the same way against Newcastle that we did last season? We have only played Newcastle, who had part of their team missing, and we've played 2 other teams that are going to fight relegation with probably the most disgraceful Everton team I've ever seen. And then, we played Arsenal, second best team in the league. So come on, be realistic with yourself. I mean, we even had Jamie Vardy, who was half fit, score against us.
All I'm saying is, this season, so far, we can't tell. As I said from the start, if after 10 games, we're still saying, hey, Tottenham conceded 8 to 10 goals after 10 games, great. That's a sign their defence is on par in terms of goals conceded with the 2 teams that went for the title last season. So that would be a sign that defence isn't the problem on its own anymore. It's the attack if we're not winning games. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying we're suddenly, if we now Ange has made us into title challengers.
But the point I'm making to you is Vardy scored the same goal against us that basically every team does, beat us down the middle and just open us up and put it in the back of the net when he was only 60% fit. Newcastle scored exactly the same goals against us that they scored last season and that basically every other team does, and we conceded a set piece. All the same goals as last season, exactly the same manner.
Dan, is that not down to what we were kind of saying earlier, though? What Ange's the biggest issue is that actually our players are switching off in certain situations this season, right? Which is costing us games, because actually you said earlier, it doesn't matter how much percent possession we have, right? At the end of the day, if we're going once or twice a game and we're switching off and we're being punished, right? Actually, is that not the bigger issue? Because if we don't switch off
on the set piece, on the set piece, but on the other goals, on the other goals, when you're sitting on the halfway line, Marlon, you're going to get caught out sitting on the halfway line. Look at the goal against Newcastle. Now, if we would have had Van der Ven there in that second goal, there's a chance we'd have caught up with it. Why? Because that's what he does. There's a chance he'd have caught up with it. But Ange is so reliant on that one defender, with that poor defender that's going to do so much sprinting. We know his hamstrings are going to go at some stage this season. That without him, we are absolutely screwed.
I think it's. I'd be remiss to say that there's nothing that's changed from last season. If the stats bear out that we're not conceding the amount of chances that we were last season over these 4 games, and it's a small sample size, you have to acknowledge that the quality of chances that we're conceding are we're not conceding that quality of chances that we were last season. We're not conceding the amount of chances that we were last season. clearly there has been work done on how we handle transition and how we are defending as a unit. But we are the issue is that we are switching off at vital stages, as Marlon said. It's not necessarily a case where we're giving up. How many times this season have we seen Van de Ven do his signature run where he is sprinting back to make a last-ditch tackle? We've hardly seen it.
He had to do that against Leicester a few times, and he even had to do it against Everton. My point is, with what you said, again, over 4 games, we can't really tell it, yeah? But if we're not giving away these quality chances like we were, because that was the main problem last season. Yeah. It wasn't the amount of chances we gave away, it was the quality of chances we gave away. So if we're not giving away the quality chances, how did, forget the set piece one. If we're not giving away the quality chances, then how comes 2 of the goals scored against us were 100% exactly the same as last season?
But I think, to be fair, Dan, I think if you watch Man City's 36 goals conceded last season, most of them would follow patterns of the way in which they concede goals.
But we ain't Man U, we're Tottenham.
No, I'm not saying we're Man City or Arsenal. I'm just saying that teams and all systems have their ways in which other teams will try to exploit them and expose them. And the reason Ange got so found out, you want to call it that way, at the end of last season was because other teams went, that's the weakness. This type of counter-attack, this type of set piece will get goals against you doing that. So there was that constant, consistent process of that. But I do think this season, he's made that more difficult for them to do, and we're not conceding them at such a... Look, if, as I said, in 10 games we conceded 15 goals, I'm going, you're spot on, massive red flag, this needs a complete change, blah, blah, blah. But if this trend as it is, after 4 games, at 10 games, we're conceding as many goals as City are over a season and Arsenal are over a season. So I think that's to say that we have to acknowledge some improvement.
Can I jump in real quick before you come in, Dan? Would anyone on the panel drop Romero?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, what's wrong? What's wrong, Harlan? You're right. Wait, nothing. I don't understand.
I love the question.
You've got 2 yeses. You've got 2 yeses here.
Harry?
Oh, it's unanimous. Unanimous.
And I love Romero as a footballer, but I don't think anyone in the team should be undroppable. And he's cost us goals so far this season ultimately, and we've got a very good alternative on the bench to him.
All right, so let me ask this question, because it's been floating around in the actual social world at the moment. Would anyone play a back 3? Was that complete nonsense?
I've been saying this for about 8 months, and you all know that this team has 100%. The first 11, we can't go by the squad because the squad's worse than it was last season. I mean, look who we've gone and bought, for God's sake. We've gone and bought young players for 40 mil who've never even played in top football. It's blatantly got Conte style written all over it. It's blatantly. If we use the wing back, we have 3 at the back, and we use the wing backs properly as overlapping, not both inverting, and then, or we can use them as midfielders, play 3-4-3 or 3-4-1-2 or 5-2-1-2, whatever. It suits it so much better. One of our biggest problems is Ange plays tactics that do not suit the players we've got. And then he puts players in a position, same as Southgate, but tells them to play a way that is not to their best. Udogie is not an inverted wing back. Neither is Porro. They might give it the all right game here and there. They are both overlapping wing backs. You know, and then in midfield, Basuma, he's not a box-to-box defensive style. That is his weaker point, defence. About the best one we got as a box-to-box defensive style is Bentancur, where he did it at Juventus. But again, he plays the players totally out of their best tactics, and then he can't figure it out himself. Or is he just that bloody stubborn that he needs to make a change?
I agree with 95% of that. I actually think Porro has been quite effective for us in that inverted role. But Udogie, I think the first 10 games of last season, I think it was a massive surprise. What is that bloke doing in the middle of the park? Once that wore off and people were used to it, I think you started to really see that I don't think it's his best position there. And he, as you said, he is an overlapping fullback by trade. And I really don't think it helps where you've got a winger, where you've got Son playing as a touchline winger, where he's not really a touchline winger. That sort of
never has been.
And that sort of doesn't allow that doesn't unlock Udogie, doesn't allow Udogie to be what he is great at, which is overlapping. We have sort of seen it more this season than we did last season, and we have seen him overlap to a degree, not anywhere near as much as I think he should be. But
in Lisbon, they even played him up on the wing. He is the only one we've got that can actually cross the ball. Porro. They even played him up on the wing at times, and that's where we'd see the best out of him. He might be good at
cutting in that pocket, like in that pocket of space, where it's sort of like where Trent does a lot of his crosses from as well. I think he's really good in that area, finding people. And against Arsenal, I think he had the most key passes out of any of our players in that position. I think Porro's quite good there. But your overall argument, not necessarily about Porro. Porro is just one player. Your overall argument about ultimately, is this system getting the best out of our players? I don't think it is. I think Ange is saying, this is how I want to play. And we're going to play it, and we're going to eventually get the players, eventually mold the team into it, rather than how can I get the best out of my team right now?
Can I ask a question to the floor? If we were to go, and I'm not sure if everyone does agree with this formation, by the way, 3-5-2, but if we were to go with this 3-5-2, wouldn't it be more defensive? Wouldn't it go against what Ange as an attacking manager is? Is this not more a defensive setup where at times we're a back five, like what you see with Brentford and other teams that set up? Because the reason why I say that is because in this type of formation, there's less forms of triangles that you can build up in attacking patterns of play, and where you are in the system. The reason why we go for 4-3-3 is because that is possession based football. That's the style of play. That's the City group which Ange comes from, which is the philosophy. And he said, I played difference of formations and etc. etc. This is the way you can dominate teams with the formation that I'm actually choosing. But yeah, anyone can jump in.
He did play with three at the back for quite a period of time, actually. So when he was managing the Socceroos, he overperformed to the point where they were going deeper into the World Cup than expected, and he knew that going in with four at the back was just going to see him get, obliterated by an Argentina or whoever, not England, but by a better team. So he actually switched in the whole build up to the tournament to a three at the back formation, and actually referenced Conte during that period. At the period, Conte was doing very well with that system, and at that time Conte was the world class innovating coach that
copying Conte.
Got us excited. he actually copied a lot of what Pete Conte did in his time at the Socceroos in terms of that same school of thought philosophy around three at the back. So there is actually a history of Ange completely overhauling the system and going for something new, knowing that playing away at massive, significantly better quality sides needs adaptation. I'm not saying he's going to do that at Spurs, and I think the point of this conversation is to say he should maybe consider doing it. But there's also the situation that I think to do this, we do need to go out and sign two more centre backs to make this a viable option to do, because we are one hamstring away from Ben Davies being in the back three again. And for all of Ben's great personality, he's not going to be someone in that side you can say every week, if he's in my side, I can challenge for something meaningful over a league season if he's in there long term.
Okay, I'll give you an example. Conte, when he took over at Chelsea, Chelsea weren't looking too great. He had the formation with them, wasn't necessarily his ideal one, but he had the formation. A couple of games didn't go well, and then he got absolutely cooked by Arsenal. What did he do? Totally changed his formation to work with the players that he got, to even make a bang average player look extremely good on the right back. I forgot his bloody name now.
Moses. Moses.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. And after what was going on last season, if you've said Ange can adapt, I have to see it to believe it. That's why I'm not a religious man. I have to see things to believe it. Yeah. When he's got to the point that he's kept 4 clean sheets in 37 games, and he's basically got a worse record than the past 3 managers we've had in every single way, and that we're looking so terrible away and even worse with the others. Don't you think if he is a good manager, he would have thought, hang on a minute, this really isn't working for me. My players aren't capable of doing what I want them to do. So maybe I've got to adapt to the players that I've got. Because for me, that is what a true manager does. I mean, that is what Arteta has done. He's developed over the years. He's adapted. And also, wouldn't you think he would actually see this then if he's actually done it and changed it, or is he just so set in these ways of trying to put square pegs in circles or whatever? He's just just being stubborn.
People say that Arteta's adapted and always been flexible, but do you know where they were in the league table at Christmas in his second season, 18 months into his?
They'd already won an FA Cup.
Yeah, they were 15th in the league with 40 points from 14 games. Arteta acknowledged that they were in a relegation fight, and that if they couldn't win their next game, the generic headline from Sky was he will be sacked the next day. Still with what was he deemed the right way to play, and brought a couple more players in January. And unfortunately for us, unfortunately for them, they did have a bit of resurgence, but it wasn't so. I think you'd still turn around and say, well done, guys, you got 8th and you took over a side that came 5th. Well, that's not really an achievement. And then you spend another 220 million quid and you come 8th again, or 5th, sorry, and you lose Tottenham on the last game of the season, who have Richarlison, as as their left winger. I think I'd be saying, get out. I'm not putting up.
I think he had a better record than 4 clean sheets in 37 games.
I don't know, top of my head. I assume yes, because it would be pretty impressive to beat that.
It wouldn't be hard to beat that. I could go out and manage this Spurs team and keep more.
5 points in 10 games.
It depends what it depends what Postecoglou's seeing, what he he's doing, what he thinks is best long term, not necessarily short term. I'm so sure that he's well aware he could change up the tactics and get points in the short term. But if he doesn't think that's going to be beneficial for us in a season, 2 seasons, is actually going to build something that's going to be substantial to challenge not just one season but multiple seasons back to back to back, he's not going to do it. And he thinks it's better to keep to his philosophy, keep to his principles, and keep this style of play. I'm not saying that's necessarily the right thing to do, but that's how he's managing the team at the moment. He wants to build the team into his image, where you could get a manager in who could come and right, I'm going to sort us out and we're going to start winning games of football now. That manager might not be here in a year's time, 2 years time. Postecoglou's managing as though he wants to be here for the long term, and he wants to build something substantial over 2, 3, 4 year period.
What does any manager do before he? Sorry, Mark. What does any manager do before he comes to a club? What I would do, and what I've known of managers to do, is assess the players you got and everything, assess the system, and assess the club you're going into. Now, again, if Ange has got a clue and wants to keep his job, he knows, and I'm pretty sure you two know, and I'm pretty sure you two also know, if we go by 25 years of Levy history, if he isn't close to 4th place, and what I mean by close to 4th place, at least, let's say 7 points from it, and he's doing a run like he is at the moment, you can say baked potato, mate. See you later. We all know that Levy's going to do it. 25 years of history. I doubt he's changed to a Christian or whatever.
Do you want him sacked?
You know he's
gone. If he finishes 6th, would you
want him
sacked?
I want him gone.
So you agree with Levy then? Get rid of him.
Yes, and I'll give you my reasons.
See, I disagree with Levy on that, and I would hope that we would stick with him. And I think Levy would be the right thing for Levy to do, would be to say, ignore the noise. Let's see how this season unfolds and give you 6 months into the next one. And if there's no marked improvement, we start again. But otherwise, it's a whole new project.
I totally get that.
And I just,
if you go and look at it, and if you go and look on how we're doing at the moment, we started off last season looking well. And ever since last season, as all we've done is go downhill. And again, we're actually playing worse now with these tactics than we did last season. It has just blatantly carried on, and it's actually even starting to look worse than it was by the end of last season. My man has blatantly stood there and said, I picked all these players. Well, he's not very good at picking players, is he? I started losing faith when he picked Timo Werner for the second time. My man's not very good at picking players that he wants when he goes and spends 40 million on an Archie Gray, when that could have been spent on several other players that can play for the team now. On an Archie Gray who has seen, 12 minutes against Leicester, and 17 minutes against Everton, and probably lucky if he plays against Coventry. And then we go and get other players like Odegaard and stuff like that, where we should have had players for now, not players for later. And then he also goes and states, where he does himself no favours, I've been fully backed. He's had the amount of money spent on him that he's had. And the one that done it for me, why I want to see the back of him, is because he has blatantly said, I will not change for nobody. I will not adapt. I will not change for nobody. Well, sorry, mate. The way it's going at the moment, Couple more games you lose. Levy wants his money. We know what Levy should do. There's a lot of things in life you should do. I should be able to leave my car door open, but I can't because someone would draw it. And we all know what Levy's like. If he isn't close, Levy wants his pocket money. You can say goodbye to Ange. And if Ange can't see this and Ange can't adapt to this, why do we hold on for another season or so and then it all goes to the start again? I don't want it going back to what it was. Look at Uno, for example. We got rid of him when we realised it just weren't going right. At the moment, you can't tell me it looks like things are going right. I've got a lot of stats here I can read out to you.
I personally, like, we're never going to like talk each other into this, are we, Dan, over the course of 20 minutes? But I respect what you're saying. And,
no, I can just put facts on you. You can only put opinions on me.
Well, I think that's a bit harsh. I've put some facts down about some things and they've been discredited as not being relevant in this situation. But like, because you can never compare the past with the present. But like I've already said, like we're conceding a rate of goals in
the past with the present.
Well, I mean, I gave the examples of what another club has done who I think were similar to us when they were 15th in the league at Christmas with 5 points from 10 games. And the majority of the fan base waited out. The manager refused to change what they were doing. They stuck with it and it ended up prevailing as the right thing to do. And I think that is in common with what Ange is doing. And I agree with that. So that's my opinion, is that we should be sticking with him. And I'm not pessimistic about how we've started this season. And I also think that, I also think the number of goals we're conceding this season is in line with what it needs to be. It's an average in line with what Man City won the title with last season. So I'm not panicking about that. I'm just pissed off we lost to Arsenal, because Arsenal are Arsenal and their biggest strength is set pieces. And they got one against us and they came with the game plan to do it.
That we lost to Newcastle and drew with Leicester. Newcastle
but Dan, can I ask you a question? Sorry, can I ask you a question? So, do you believe, that Arsenal should have sacked Arteta after those 18 months?
I wouldn't have blamed them if they did. I wouldn't have blamed them if they did. And the majority of the fan base did turn on him. But I tell you, the one thing that saved him, and this is where Ange made one of his biggest mistakes again. He went and got that FA Cup that bought him time.
Yeah, it didn't buy him that much time. It didn't buy him that much time.
And he also had COVID. And he also had COVID that saved his backside.
Should we have kept one day Ramos because he won the League Cup after 2 points from 8 games? Because that's the exact same situation with Arteta. Relegation form. They had 2 points from 8. Arteta had 5 from 10. We had won a League Cup.
He got an FA Cup. He got an FA Cup. But
the reason why I'm asking,
Levy does it different.
But so he should have kept Ramos.
Yeah. If he got us the cup that we haven't got, then you give him the chance. But
so the reason why I'm asking the question,
he gave us. Go on.
The reason why I'm asking the question is because, funny enough, I thought I'd look at the points per game that Ange had in his first season and Arteta, right? And I did it on league, right? Because let's be honest, the cups, we're not a team. Unfortunately, we're not a cup team under this ownership, right? So I have to go with league form, right?
It's so what we were always known as.
Yeah. So I have to go with it's going to be their philosophy, right? And this is one reason why I don't want Ange sacked at the moment, right? I don't believe in him right now, but I don't want him sacked. Because if you look at the points per game in Arteta's first 2 seasons, Ange in his first season, even this season's still going, Ange has got a points per game better in the league than Arteta. And as Jim was saying, and I do this is where I kind of agree with him, all of us, majority of us, and you can see it in the chat now, want him sacked. We want him gone, right? But hasn't that been the downfall of Spurs with sacking all these managers? Because the fans, like all of us, like when we got sick and tired of Poch, when we got sick and tired of Conte, we got sick and tired of Mourinho, we end up just sacking them, and then that's it. We start again. I
totally agree with what you're saying, I totally get you. It's going to be another pain in the arse again. But if I had a manager, it's the one thing with Ange for me. Out of all the stats and everything I can put down here and prove as facts, they're just not numbers. They're not just convenient. They are all facts and they are extremely bad. There's only one thing really about him which makes me say, get rid of him now. It's the fact that he won't adapt. That is his word. And that is why I want the man gone. If I had a manager that I had belief that he could adapt, I'd be saying, no, like I was at the start of the season, give him till Christmas. At least give him till Christmas, But my man has blatantly said, I ain't changing for nobody. Simple as that. So as far as I'm concerned, he's got to go.
Do you think he doesn't want to change? Do you think he doesn't want to change? He doesn't want to adapt his tactics, or he doesn't want to adapt his philosophy, because they are two different things. I think he's unrelenting with his philosophy. I am not changing how I want to set out a football match, how I want to go about winning a football match. I do think he is willing to change his tactics. I just don't think he's done it yet, but I don't see a reason why in 2 years' time I don't think I could see a situation in 2 years' time we're not playing inverted fullbacks. I don't think he's married to that idea of how to play football.
But like I told you, I need to see to believe. I'm not religious. If I employ you as a job, I look at your CV, I look at your history, I look at what you've done, and then I decide whether I employ you or not from there. Not what I think how good you might be in 3 or 4 years' time. I want to see how good you are now, what you've done now, and then look at the future. What I've seen him do now is have one of the poorest records, if not the poorest record, a manager has had for Spurs in God knows how many years. When if you look at the team he's had, not necessarily the squad, but the team he's had compared to Conte, compared to Mourinho, he's had a much better team, bar Harry Kane, but then he never had Harry Kane in the first place. That's no excuse. He's had over 365 million spent on him in 12 months, which Arteta never had.
But doesn't that show how good Harry Kane is, though?
Oh, of course it does. Harry Kane's got a world-class striker.
But you can't. What I'm saying is, right, and I completely agree. Ange's record is terrible, right, compared to those other.
It's abysmal.
But they did look. At the end of the day, this is not just an Ange issue. This is what I'm trying to get. This is not an Ange issue, right? This is a collective of since Poch, right, and as Jim said at the beginning of the show, right, it all depends on where you are in this journey, right? A lot of us, and that includes me, right, are 7 years into this. I have to see this again, and I'm going to have to recycle and repeat, right? The problem is that what eventually happens is that it starts affecting the managers as you go down, because Conte got the best out of it, and then he started, let's be honest, Levy ends up screwing him over. Mourinho ended up getting screwed over, right? Nuno was just probably the wrong choice to begin with, right? So the problem you've got here, right? If we sack Ange tomorrow, then you can't sit there and I'm going to say this, us Levy out people can't sit there and then complain, right, when another manager comes in and the whole thing's recycled again, because
I totally get it.
Yeah,
but
do you get what I'm saying? Because
I totally understand what you're saying. I don't actually want him to be sacked in the aspect of and start again and that. I'm looking at it from more of a professional point of view. My man ain't doing his job. As far as I'm concerned, I don't think he's good enough for a top Premier League team. If we go by history, he has never ever. No, I'm sorry, Harry Kane factor is not a factor because he never had Harry Kane, so that don't count.
But the other
it impacts the numbers and facts you're mentioning earlier, though. Because you're saying 300 million quid, and he got 100 million of that 300 million from selling Harry Kane, if that makes sense. So it's like I think that is. Well,
did that really go into it? That's always lots of maybes.
Because it's all well and good saying, like Liverpool had spent massive on Coutinho and Van Dijk. Well, they didn't really spend massive on Coutinho and Van Dijk. They got that from selling Coutinho, which makes it even more impressive, right? And I'm just saying,
which is something we don't do, because Levy is just that terrible when it comes to the football side. He's only a good businessman, but even on the football side of business, he's absolutely awful.
Right, yeah, I'm not disputing Daniel Levy. I'm never going to try and argue he's a good football man, because it's a point. He's not a good football man. I've never ever said he's a good football man. I've always said he's a businessman that if you can keep locked up in a room somewhere, just focused on running the business and funnel every single bit of football communication, then he'd be absolutely perfect owner. But he has historically overreached continuously, and he can't help but occasionally be like, oh, that little shiny Jed Spence over there, I've got to bring him in. My little sprinkle of magic, or Sissoko.
But he didn't do it with none of these players. But he didn't do it with none of these players. But Ange picked all of them.
No, I agree. But I would say that not every player is a hit. But I would say that when you look at all of Ange's signings, the ones that went wrong seem to be Brennan Johnson. It's looking like he's not going to work out, but it's still a little bit harsh to say it's completely definitely not going to happen, but it looks like he won't. That was a kind of Ange went straight in with that and said, that's a guy I've had my arm for ages. I want him. And I don't think that was a carefully evaluated signing that followed the new club recruitment structure. But the ones that did, which is Dragusin, Van der Ven, Udogie.
Dragusin hasn't even played enough games yet. He bought him and he didn't even bloody play him. So Dragusin's a no-go for me. Let's change this a different way. It's going to be an easier way for you to answer this question. Who has worked?
Can I ask a question?
Isn't it too early to ask that question? Don't you?
Oh,
you
no, a
normally
whole
don't-
season's gone. A whole season has gone by. We can go by a lot that he bought last season. Out of what he bought last season, who actually worked
But
out?
are we judging Ange Postecoglou as a talent ID manager, or are we judging him based on his football?
No, that's all I'm judging him on is a man's word. So what I'm doing, yeah, if he says at the start and goes and claims like I buy all my I pick all my players, no one comes in here without me picking him or condoning it. Yes, he did. And if I turn around and just say, hey, he's only saying that for Levy, I'm just basically calling him Levy's bitch. What I'm doing is showing my man respect and holding a man to his word, because that's what I do when a man speaks. Half the stuff he said, he didn't have to say. That's why he's got no feet left, because he shot him in the feet so many times. He has done himself over like a kipper, but I'm holding my man to his word. He picks them. So like I asked you, out of all the buys he's made, how many have actually worked? I mean, this is more of a simple answer.
I just don't understand what
he didn't pick them, though.
But why judging his talent ID dictates how good he is as a manager? You have Mauricio Pochettino was awful at picking
Stop diverting the question and just answer my question, please. In the aspect of who actually worked that he bought, who has worked?
I think the only player he picks in that list is Johnson. Yeah, Van der Ven and Vicario were good. So out of the ones, I'm just getting the list up now because we can't compare this season's, I assume, after 4 games. Is that fair to say this season's signings?
I'll go with that.
They're good or not.
Well, we can only claim one of them anyway was good enough for the first 11, so the others don't.
If he picked them, and my understanding is there's a structure where there's a panel and a recruitment process. Scott set up, and then he gets the final thumbs up. So he's involved, but he's not the ultimate. Doesn't have the time and bandwidth to be scouting the world for players. But anyway, he's involved in it. Vicario, I think, still is a improvement on what Lloris was and a good enough keeper for the end. For now. I think he's fine.
Unless if he doesn't sort out his set piece thing, then he's going to go downhill drastically. But shot stopping, he's brilliant. I'd seen him in Italy. He
signed Van der Ven, which I think we're all unanimously saying that was a good one. And I'm just reading them off Transfermarkt in order, by the way. Dragusin, I think he looks positive, but I can get why you're saying he hasn't played enough minutes to be a fair hit or miss.
I think he's good, but he's hardly ever played.
So this is you might not agree this is his signing up. So Kulusevski was an option to buy, and the option was given to Ange to sanction the completion of that transfer.
That's right.
So and that was 1 week into his job, I think.
So that's a tough
one. And I think he would have to split the jury on whether he's a good signing or not. And I think he's a great.
I think Kulusevski, I say as a squad player, fine, but we play him in the wrong position. Like I told everyone a year ago, he's an attacking midfield central. That's what he did at Juventus after they sussed him out on the wing.
Hold on, Dan. So he's a good signing then, but he's just played in the wrong position, is what you're saying.
He's played in the wrong position, definitely. I don't think he's as bad as people say. He's played in the wrong position. I don't think he's as bad as people say. I've had this debate with others. I think if you play him as an attacking midfield central or false 9, over 5, 6 games, 10 games, he'll start getting himself together. But you can't say he's worked out overall, has he? But not the worst by it.
No, I think he's just what you would call he's not a hit or a miss. He's just a good squad addition. That was
Can you expand that a little bit?
For him. You've got them all up there.
I can read it properly.
Porro's probably not his. Because it was an obligation. It was an obligation to buy, right?
Porro was already bought.
So I'd say there's one definite. I think where you get 80% of fans saying he hasn't worked out in Johnson. I think you get 80% of the fans would agree on that, right? And I know a lot of people say toxic negativity. He's a young kid, etc. He's only 22. Fine, he's got. I'm not saying go flog him tomorrow, but right now he hasn't lived up to the amount of money we paid for him. And James Maddison, I would say, is in that camp. I'd say I'd lean to being a 60% of people saying flop, but the other half
would say it's been a flop. He has been a flop. By the first 10 games, he has been a flop, whether we like it or not. I think he's a good player, but he's still a flop.
So what about one definite flop? One. Maybe.
What about Solomon?
Well, are we including a free transfer that's already gone?
Well, but he was still picked and bought by Ange. He was still picked. What about Alves?
So Solomon was before
Bring up the whole list.
Ange, I believe, wasn't he? Solomon was just
Yeah,
before Ange
if I
joined.
can.
No, as far as I know, Ange said yes to him. I mean, Ashley Phillips,
There's
Velez.
nothing wrong with Phillips. They're out on
So-
loan. Phillips and Velez
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
fine.
So, well, they obviously, are they? They haven't done anything for the club yet, have they? So,
Well,
They-
they're
they
one's a
weren't-
£2
they
million
weren't bought-
teenager
they
on
haven't-
loan.
They weren't
weren't
bought
bought
to
for
be like that. The intention behind buying them wasn't for them
Okay,
to come in
so-
and change the team.
right.
Yeah.
So when we've got no backups, where we got no backups at centre back, wouldn't it just been smarter to keep Phillips there just in case? Because we've only got one backup on the centre back, really. So, and let's go to Timo Werner.
Yeah, he's
Yeah. Yeah.
No one will argue about that one.
Twice.
But
So-
what we're saying
Keep
here
going.
though is that
Keep going.
are we actually going to include a 18-year-old £2 million centre back who's out on loan and is bought to be a prospect over the next 5 years as a flop?
Okay.
So
Okay.
would you not say?
Then
I
what
can't
was
agree with that
Archie
kind of
Gray
stuff.
bought as then? Then what was Archie Gray bought as then?
Archie Gray was bought as someone who can be a part of the squad now, but they're not a starter. They're someone that could probably rotate into the Europa League games, League Cup games, early stage FA Cup games,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
allow a senior player to have a rest.
I'll go with
And
that.
then in 2 or 3 years, they're hopefully a starter, and you're going,
Okay.
that's better than
I'll go with that. But for 40 million, what a banging buy that was, wasn't it? Since he's like seen 29 minutes and he was absolutely shot to pieces when he went played Munich. But Munich is a quality team, and we spent 40 million on a player that we could have actually got ourselves a half decent DM with. I mean, look at everything that was flying about. We could have even gone and got Chiesa and Locatelli for that sort of money, because their wages weren't absolutely stupid either. But no, we go and get a 40 million little boy who can't even get into the first team, even though my man is preaching when he's on the TV over the Euros how he likes to play with young players, but you never see a young player on the bloody pitch. So all this system that we've got of we want to bring the youth academy in, but he don't use the bloody youth academy, contradicts himself again.
What are we actually discussing? I'm just confused.
Yeah, I
'cause
think this is going a bit into do we have a good recruitment structure?
Yeah,
not really Ange
I thought
Postecoglou.
if we're just talking about Ange Postecoglou in terms of the footballing side of Ange Postecoglou, do we think he should be sacked?
There's
Do
more
we think he
sides.
should? But if he brought in Ashley Phillips, I don't think if you're looking at pros and cons, that's going to go on pros or cons. That's not even a part of whether we keep him at the football club. We're talking about, do we want Ange Postecoglou to be our manager? Do we see him being our manager in December? And I don't think Ashley Phillips has any bearing on that.
I think what Dan was saying was that he's basically taken all the responsibility on his back, saying all the transfers are mine.
Yeah.
And I think there was a lot of expectation from the fan base that we were going to see some of these young bucks, some of the bright sparks, get a chance in the actual. And also with Archie Gray and Bergvall, we said, or I don't know who it was, if it was Alistair Gold or one of the ITKs, but something came out from the club that we weren't going to replace a Højbjerg or a Skip, who were two senior players that had numerous amount of minutes the season before and the season before last, that they weren't going to replace them with two players. In fact, they were going to use Archie Gray and Bergvall as actual two players to impact the actual squad in terms of getting minutes to give players competition. So when you see when we play Arsenal in a North London derby and Bergvall gets no minutes and Archie Gray gets no minutes, I start to think, well, are these really big Ange signings? Because if they're Ange signings, wouldn't he play those type of players? I think they're club signings, in my opinion. I feel like Odegaard is a club signing. I don't think Ange has got much to say. I think that's more data analysis, recruitment, and I think also Hyungmin Yuk from Korea. He's also not an Ange signing. I think Ange is just saying that because he's trying to change the culture, and he knows the culture is ultra toxic. So he is being the fall guy at the moment. And I don't know if you've not seen Dark Knight, but he goes, if you live long enough to see yourself become the villain, I'm the good guy. But, you know what I'm trying to say? But go on, Dan.
But you just said the perfect bit there. You just said the perfect bit. If you live long enough, Ange ain't going to live long enough playing like this, and we all know Levy's going to boot him. And with the other side of it, if my man's got this much faith in his young players that he decided that he wanted, Whereas he could have also been training while he was out on the TV and everything, preaching about how he loves the way Spain do it with the young players, but he's never done it himself in the Premier League, bar maybe 10 minutes here or there. Why the hell, when we need a goal against Arsenal, does my man go and take off Maddison? Okay, not having his best game, but about our only playmaker, and go and bring on Timo bloody Werner and Sarr, when he could have said, do you know what? This young player I've gone for, Bergvall, he looks quite, he looks like he can do something. I'm going to take my chance. We're 1-0 down. Come on, Bergvall, boy, see if you can do something for me. No one's going to grill you if you don't. No, tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to take off our best playmaker, Maddison, and I'm going to bring on Turbo Wiener.
Yeah, no, I think you're right.
Justify that.
Yeah. I was
Justify that.
Hold on, Dan, because that was going to be one of my questions to all.
Oh, sorry, mate.
I want Gary. Yeah, so thank you. But to Jim, but I want Jim and Gary to answer that as well, right? Like the substitutions at the weekend, right, against Arsenal.
Let's do it.
For me, they killed him. They actually killed the game and everything like that. How did you see it? And was it one of those situations where a lot of Spurs fans looked at it and went, if he carries this on and he makes substitutions like that, he's walking a tightrope?
Mm-hmm. You go, Jim.
Oh, sure. Yeah, it's a similar, like I call it a weakness, whatever you want to call it, an area that needs to be improved of Ange's is the late substitutions. And this is coming from someone, as I've said from the start, and I'm still dying on this hill, that I am a backer of him. I don't think Daniel Levy will sack him, and I'm sticking with him. But even I will admit the way that he does substitutions so late, and the signing of Timo Werner is probably the one out of all of his that I get frustrated by, because I'm going, that's what you call a stopgap signing. And to me, a stopgap signing means they're not good enough now and they're not good enough later, but I'll just get someone in anyway. It's not really fixing any problems there. I'd rather have said, anyway, I don't want to go down the signings route. We've just finished that conversation. But in terms of subs, I'd have liked, like everyone's saying, for Lucas Bergvall to come on. I think we discussed a bit of Maddison at the start. And what annoys me the most about Maddison is his weak mentality in what seems like hostile moments of games. And Leicester, don't forget, when they were 18th in the league with 3 games to go, they dropped Maddison for those 3 games because they felt he was one of the players letting the team down in those moments. A team that's 18th in the league. And on my show, we had a Leicester fan on who's a season ticket holder telling us all about his time. He said, it's so true what Spurs fans have said about the guy. He comes in 3 parts of the season. He's the best 10 in the league for 10 games. Then he gets injured for 10 games. And then his head drops for the rest of the season. And then at some point in the next year, he'll re-emerge again for 10 games and then disappear again. But yeah, so on that note, I'd love to see Bergvall giving him a kick for that position. And it's why, in a way, I'd rather we had not signed Werner. And I agree I'm not against the signing of Gray. I think I want him, but prioritization is a fair comment by you down there. And I would have preferred to see us prioritize 40 million quid towards someone like Eze and go, there's a challenge for Maddison.
There you go.
There's a 10, and there's someone who can play out wide as well and add a bit more of a threat. So I'm not saying things are perfect here, but I'm saying, I don't.
To build a first 11.
Sorry, can I just cut in?
Gary, 1 second. Gary, 1 second. I just want to read these 2 super chats, and then Gary, you can come in afterwards. Thanks to a user. He says players who underperform are played out of position, and he did have one earlier, but now I can't find it. But thank you again. And then we've also got a super chat from Football Heritage TV. Where's he gone? Hold on, I've lost it. Go on, Gary. I'll come back to it because I've lost it.
So coming in with the substitutions, Ange said in a press conference, before I get to that, actually, over pre-season, my favourite part of pre-season wasn't the first half. It was actually the second half when all of the other players came on. When you had the likes of Bredival coming in, when you had the likes of Mikey Moore coming in, Will Lancashire. That was my favourite part. So I'm really excited to see how those players actually play. And in the post, I don't know if it was the press conference he did today. I think it was a press conference he did earlier today. He did one today, didn't he? Saying that it was always the plan for that first part of the season where there was no cup games, there was no Europa League games, for that just to be the core first team that we've seen being played, and then it was always the plan for this part of the season when the cup games start coming in, when the Europa League starts coming in, to implement those younger players. I would have loved to see the likes of like a Mikey Moore, a Bird Cloud come in and actually make a difference against a team like Arsenal when you've got quite one-dimensional players in Timo Werner. Timo Werner's the one which I think everyone in the fan base can point at and say he for what Ange wants in an attacker, he just seems like the antithesis of that. He's a very one-dimensional. He can't change direction whilst moving with the ball. He's very just a straight line player.
Can't shoot, can't pass, can't cross, can't do nothing except run, really.
He's just not what you would want. You want someone who's got.
He's crap. Just say it. He's crap.
Yeah, no, I'm just. He doesn't have that. He's not an Ange.
Gary's a man of God, man. Allow him.
he's just not an Ange player, really.
He's not an anybody player.
I would like to see the players come on who can add that bit of dynamism to our attack, and I think Bredival would have been a perfect player to come on instead of bringing on Werner for the likes of James Maddison. I would like to think he's seen this first half of the season and gone, right, I can't actually trust these players as much as I thought I could. I've got a batch of younger players that I haven't given the chance to. Let's give them a chance. Let's see if there's one or two of these players that Harry, I can actually trust.
Can I ask you a question off the back of what you just said? How will you feel if it's Werner that's getting the head? I know we're going to talk about Coventry, but how would you feel like if it is Werner getting the start over a Mikey Moore, and Mikey Moore's not even in the squad?
If he wasn't in the squad, I'd be absolutely distraught. I think he will be in the squad. I think
his face when you asked that. Sorry, you can tell. His face went,
I think Werner is going to start tomorrow. I do think he's going to start, and I will celebrate him coming off. In all honesty, I want to see these. I want to see these other players play.
Also, go on.
He wasn't in the squad for the under-21s tonight, Mikey Moore. Yeah. So if he's not getting in the squad for the under-21s and he's not getting in the squad for Coventry, something's going very wrong there. He needs minutes. He needs football. So I'd be worried about what's happening.
If he didn't get any minutes at all,
between those two games. Yeah.
Oh, I was going to ask as well because Jim.
Before you carry on, can we get to these super chats, right? And then you can carry on, right? Because I found them. You can answer this, Ash, because it's becoming a cult at Spurs that these managers are worse stats than Jose, Conte, Poch, AVB, Sherwood, and Nuno. Never see so many excuses for poor manager within 10 months of dreadful stats. Go on. How would you answer that? How do you feel about Ange? Because you've not answered that.
So you know what it is. You know what it is? I just feel like the run of games, and I know it's an excuse, but the run of games was a mazine. Like, when are we ever gonna have a run of games where we have Newcastle, Arsenal, Chelsea, Man City? Do you know what I'm saying? More or less back to back, all at the back end of the season. I know we had poor results against Wolves. We had poor run of games against West Ham. We didn't win any of those clutch like mid-table games. But I know, and I don't want to mention the injuries, but I'm just trying to add some context to the guy's first season, trying to embed a philosophy and ideology behind the way he wants players to play. And he was like, you know what? I don't care if we, concede the other end. I need these players to get into their heads. This is the way and the style we'll play it. This is how we're going to do it. If you kind of add what happened last season to this season, it paints a horrible picture. But if you isolate just this season and you separate what happened last season as two different entities, then you can have a bit of a conversation and say, look, this guy's in the second season. We have got a headache from Conte. We have got a headache from Mourinho, and we have got a headache from Nuno as well. So we're kind of bringing all of that baggage and we're kind of throwing it onto Ange. However, I'm going to contradict myself now, because for me personally, I said I will give this manager pretty much a free ride for the first season because, you know, it is what it is, you know. There's going to be some bumps in the road, blah, blah, blah. I said, come second season, there can't be no excuses. And the worrying thing for me and the concerns I think everyone has in the fan base, everyone has on the panel today, everyone in the chat has, is, as Dan said, it's the quality or it's the type of goals we are conceding because they are echoes of the same problems of the back end of last season. And so then you ask yourself, you look at the front line, because what Gary was saying, if we fix the front, then we ain't got to worry about the back. But the front at the moment is blunt. It's like, it's not working at the moment. So fundamentally, it's flawed, if that makes sense. And for me, the transfer market, the transfer window was the biggest, I don't know, red flag for me. When you buy two wingers, right? And two of the wingers are both young. So you've got the Korean kid, Young Min Hook, which is, I've got no problem with. But then you also buy another young player in Odebert. So you're buying two gambles. That's not balanced. You buy maybe one player who has seniority and has the ability to kind of do it now. And then you do one which is more of a club signing, in my opinion. And you balance the two. Do you know what I'm saying? So then you're not going into the season where you need some of your young players don't work out. Do you know what I'm saying? Supposing now we've bought Bergvall, we've bought Archie Gray, we've got Odebert, and we've got Young Min Hook, yeah? So out of those four, one of them has to do well. Like, we're gambling on one. Like Chelsea, they stockpiled young players. Because they knew they're not relying on 4 young players to come good. They know that some of those players, they're not going to make it. They're not going to do so well. Our strategy is to buy all these young players and not have any players that are ready now. And now we've kind of screwed ourselves over because those young players, they actually have to develop. And we don't have time. Ange got time because guess what?
Exactly.
The next few games, he could be out of a job. He's in trouble. So I want this manager to work. But for me, I'm looking at the board and at the club and I'm like, brother, what are we doing? As Jim was saying, like with Eze, those were the type of signings I was looking at to say, rah, that's the. But just to finish off, because I know you want to read out the super chat, just to finish off, just going back into Jim's point, Jim was talking about mentality of Maddison, right? Saying how Maddison's mentality is worrying, like, and Leicester fans had identified it before. And I feel like we've got a few players like a Maddison where the culture for me of the players are slightly wrong. They're a bit soft. And that's why I was going to bring up Brennan Johnson, because a lot of people, it's a divisive subject because a lot of people are like, no, I don't agree with the fans abusing, but at the same time, I want my players to have a backbone. I want my players to be strong. If they get abused, you saw it happen to Emerson Rowe. Emerson Rowe said, you know what? I'm going to double down. I'm getting my head down. I'm going to rise above it. I'm going to use this as adversity, and I'm going to make myself stronger. Now, it says here from the comments are saying, Ange Postecoglou on the online abuse aimed towards Brendan Johnson. Criticism is one thing. Expansions, exaggeration on a game, you accept that. To sit down and write something abusive, anonymously, say it in front of me. You will get a punch on the nose. You won't do it again, mate. So that's what Ange was saying, isn't it? And I kind of like that, yeah. I'm not advocating violence, but I need to see that from Brennan Johnson. I need to see that from Maddison. When the going gets rough, the going gets tough, I need these players to be brave. I need them to be men. I need them to stand up. We can't have soft underbellies. Too many times, me as a Spurs fan, I've always thought it's Tottenham, we've got slightly like a weak belly. I remember like just thinking under pussies. Yeah, do you know what I'm saying? We need to like man up slightly. Like, come on, just show that you've got a bit of determined, a bit of grit, a bit something about yourself. Stand up for yourself.
Ash,
you know what I'm saying?
One point I'll give you quick. One point I just sorry to interrupt you, mate, but I need to make this point. Yeah, out of those wingers that we've got, if that's what you want to call them, there's only one that has got the balls to take his man on, and that's Werner. When you look at Johnson, it looks like his ain't even dropped yet.
Yeah. I'll just read off the rest of the quote and then I'll end it there. It says, when I look at Brennan, I see a young man who's trying his hardest to be the best he can be. It doesn't always guarantee success. It's a part of his journey. How he deals with this, how he deals with all of this. But he is a great kid, a great footballer, and I'm very optimistic about what he's going to do for us. So that was just a comment. I just thought I'd bring that up. But I know it's controversial, and not everyone will agree with my stance on it and my style on it. But like, bro, we're in London. Listen, you have to just like, life ain't all sunshine and rainbows. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, I could be wrong. Like,
no, you're right.
Me now, but look, it is what it is.
Yeah. Before you come in, Ash still didn't answer the question that Asava asked him, but he went around the houses. But we'll go. I think
just didn't like the
answer. So just to put it like this, right? Because he's saying it's becoming a culture at Spurs with the worse stats than Jose, Conte, Poch, AVB, Sherwood, and Nuno. I think that's what the issue is, right? There's too many. It's carrying on now. Yeah, it's always going to be one after the other. Now, I'm not saying that he is better than those managers, and his stats are showing are worse than those managers. I think I'm at the point now where I'm like, I'm sick and tired of sacking managers, right? And I don't care. Look, Ange, I want to see what Ange is. I don't want to give Ange 18 months. I want to give him this last season, and I want to give him this season, right? And if there's no thorough improvement by the end of it, which it's not showing to be at the moment, right? It looks like it's not going to be, right? Then I will go, maybe this ain't working out, right? So that's where I'm at, because actually, when those managers there, I didn't want Jose sacked at the time when he was, right? Because that was a week before a final. I was one of the only few people I remember in the fan base, right? I got completely ripped for it. I didn't want Conte sacked either, right? There was too much going on. Poch, I didn't want sacked at the time, right? Because I thought he didn't get the rebuild he wanted. AVB, I thought was treated unfairly because he just lost Gareth Bale, and then they bought him all these players, and they was told, here you go, bet them in, right? Yeah. Sherwood, I'm going to totally admit, I didn't want him, didn't like him, didn't want him, hated it. Everything about him. He was one of the only. And Nuno,
he got a Harry Kane.
Yeah. And Nuno, I was actually willing to give a chance to, but the rest of the fan base went, no. Right? Because he was 50-50. Right? So I can't sit there and say that's why I'm probably at a different stage to everyone else with Ange, why I'm willing to give him the chance to the end of the season. Right? Even if the stats are worse, because yes, another manager could come in, but we could have another 18 months and then we're all talking about the same stuff.
There's also no manager. There's also no manager I can think of apart from Pep Guardiola, who I think we all agree is a freak of nature in terms of just being the best of the best, who we'd take in a heartbeat, whatever. But every single manager who's gone on to win something major in the Premier League, except for Pep, has seen their progress go up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, but it's trended upwards over the course of a number of years. And we've got to be careful not to. I know the people, the stats we throw is, worse stats than Nuno. That makes him a shit manager than Nuno. Well, okay, you can manipulate those stats so easily. Who's the best manager ever in history to manage in the Champions League? Roberto Di Matteo. He's been in it once, 100% fucking win rate, took the trophy home. Shouldn't we be bringing a manager like that? Sherwood, best win rate ever of any Tottenham manager. Bring him back, better than Pochettino. Like, these stats have to be taken in the context of the wider project and the situation. And I think some comparisons are. Well, I think they're over nowadays. The trend shows what only two managers to disrupt Man City over a consistent period of time were Liverpool and, of course, Arsenal. They're the only two that have been able to consistently.
Yeah, but that's a whole different kettle. But I mean, don't even compare City to us. That's a million.
No, I'm not comparing City to us. I'm comparing the two clubs who have gotten to them, and they have two things in common. They had a manager who came in, and in the first season they went backwards. In the second season, they came level of where they did the previous season, and the third season they saw progress. So that to me says the formula and model we're copying, which is similar to theirs, is a 3-year test ratio, not a 1 year anymore. It used to be a 1 year, but now it's a 3 year.
Can you sorry, can I just to go on that point? I guess this is a question to the panel. Can you guys see the merits of Ange Ball? Can you see how Ange Ball can dominate games, can win games, can score goals, or do you not have that confidence in what Ange is actually trying to build? Because I guess that's important to, if someone can see what Ange is trying to do, can see how Ange is trying to win games, I guess that gives you a lot more confidence in trusting the process.
I get exactly what you're saying, and I do get the way he tries to play. But again, for me, given the best defense on the planet, he still conceded too many goals.
It's just, can you
And
see
on
how
the
he
other
can
side
win
of it,
games? Sorry, it's not really
I can
answering
see
the
how he
question.
can win games because we do win games
As
against.
in, like, can you see how he can dominate games and win a multiple
Well,
games in the season?
I haven't really seen us dominate a game for a long time where we've actually dominated it. Yeah, where it hasn't actually been the other team just sit back and give it to us. I haven't actually seen us beat a top 10 team this year. You know what I mean? And that is the
Wait, we beat Villa. Allow that.
yeah, last year.
You said this year.
Yeah, this year. That was last year
Oh, you
we
mean
beat
this
Villa.
Yeah, but this season then. Sorry. I thought you meant this
This
year,
season?
2024. Because obviously,
Yeah,
2024.
2024.
Yeah.
We haven't beat a top 10 team since 2023.
We beat Villa in
In
March.
December.
No, March. It was away.
I thought it was
4-0.
December we beat them.
No,
It was
March.
it was the second half of the season.
Oh no,
Yeah, it was March.
no, my mistake. Sorry, I've got that mixed up with another one. Okay, we beat one top 10
We lost
team.
the Villa at home. Yeah, we lost the Villa
That's
at
right.
home.
Yeah,
14.
that's the one I got mixed up with. Yeah, but we've beat one top 10 team. As soon as we've gone up against anything good, we've just looked at shambles basically.
Yeah.
Even against the easier teams as such, they're even now basically making it 10 times harder for us because everybody knows how to play against Spurs because we are the easiest, most predictable team to play against. I can see what Ange tries, but it blatantly isn't working, and the facts and the stats say so. We all know he hasn't got the right players for it to play his way. That's good enough, but he picked 16 of them, so that's on his head. And then when my man stands there and says, next season I want to be going for a title, okay, shouldn't have said that, not to a bunch of bloodthirsty Spurs fans. And then the following season goes and says, yes, this is a project, and then changes it again, to why can't we contend for the title this season? How can I take this manager serious in any means or manner? Then when one of our players even stands there and says, yes, this Arsenal game is ultra big for the fans and big for us, and he turns around and says it's just like any other game. Okay, any other game should be just as important, but surely my man should have the logic in his head and learn from the last games that this is a big one for the fans and that maybe he said too much again.
Dan, I think you're leading on to a good point here.
He contradicts himself too much.
I just obviously we disagree on the point of Ange in or Ange out, but
and he said he won't adapt.
I agree. Well, there's one bit there that I'm slightly leaning to where Gary said, but I think that's been taken a little bit out of context to what he meant by that. It wasn't like I'm only going to play all out attacking football. It was more around his underlying philosophies that you always try and control a game. But I get what you said. The way he set himself up to get criticism is by making those kind of comments which are raising the expectations of people even more. And if you want him gone or believe he's not the right person, you're giving those people ammunition to say, what a muppet, what are you talking about? You know, that you're just setting, you're giving me ammo to shoot you back down as a manager as well. So I completely do agree with you there. But I also wanted to say that I do think with the Derby comments, what he's trying to do is we have to admit as a club, we have underperformed massively in derbies over the last, not just 10 years, over the last when Chelsea were mid-table and we were mid-table, we hadn't beaten them at home in 16 years. Like, they weren't the Chelsea they are now. They were shit, and we still couldn't beat them at home in 16 years.
Chelsea is our bogey club, simple as that. We know that. But didn't Conte beat Arsenal?
He did, and he
with
had
a much worse team.
No, this isn't to defend. You hear where I go. And Conte has one line that I always think was brilliant, and I agree with him on. He said, "In a derby, you need hot hearts and cool heads." Mm-hmm. And I think Tottenham go into derbies with hot heads and hot hearts, and they just fuck it up every single time. So, but I see what I think what Ange is trying to do is instill that kind of like, stop looking at this and going in like you've got rabies and you want to bite everyone, and start trying to think of this as just a massive game, the old Fergie Man United style. You turn up in your suits, you're organised, you're drilled, there's a game plan, let's do it. I think he's trying to shift the mentality so we stop losing all these big away games. And I think that's how he envisages you do it. Whether it's the right thing or do is not, time will tell. But I think that's where it came from.
Can I just quickly go?
It wasn't the most intelligent thing he said then after his player sat there and said, this is a massive game for us. It's a derby, North London derby. And then my man comes in and says, it's just like any other game. Now, I get what he means in the aspect of you should want to win every other game the same. But you don't go and then contradict one of your players who's just said, I'm here for the North London derby, and he just says, no, I expect us all to be the same for every game. Don't you think my man should have learned over the past year that he talks too much and there's certain things you don't say to the fans? Because I lay money on it. If he'd have said that in Scotland, he'd have had a brick thrown at his head.
I want to sort of, I think that's actually something that might be the first time every single person on the panel is agreeing that what Ange is saying in the media and what he's saying to the he's painting
it seems to be a common theme.
He's painting a massive target on his back. If I was in his position, I would never go in front of the camera and say and double down on some of the stuff that he's saying. Like, let me correct you, I don't sometimes win trophies in my second year, I always win trophies in my second year. That's just coming back to the end of the year. If we don't win a trophy, some people would say when we don't win a trophy, I think it is an if. There's going to be about 10 podcasts about Ange Postecoglou saying this. There's going to be news reports saying Ange Postecoglou said that I always win trophies and he didn't. He is literally writing headlines and painting targets on his back by saying stuff like that. That's something it's becoming a bit of an irritation for me over the last few weeks.
He's not learning, is he?
I sort of want him to just, you know how the lady was taking the mic away from him? I sort of want to take the mic away from him and just not let him speak anymore.
He should, at times, he has said too much. Now, one thing I do believe is that there's certain things you have to say to keep Mr. Levy or whoever happy. But then he goes on with what he says and shoots himself in the foot. He must have contradicted himself at least 8 or 9 times now. And how many times has he now said something where it is now coming back on him because we're actually showing the man respect by holding the man to his word? Or do we just turn around and say, oh, he's only doing what Levy told him to say, and we've just got another yes man here? He's done it to himself.
And
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, go on, Gary. So
I just, it's just a concern for me. I think it was nice at the start of last season having a manager seem so excited about being at our club, speaking positively about us in the media, but I think
he's Spurs, didn't he?
he's feeding into this, into like creating a narrative against him. It's sort of like everything he says, it's just feeding this negative narrative against him. And sometimes there's some stuff he just doesn't even need to say, and he's saying it, and it's just
okay.
I don't think he's.
Is he a yes man? Is he naive, or does he just chat crap?
I don't think he's a yes man. Everything that I've heard him say in press conferences, everything, I don't think he's a yes man. Whether he's naive,
because he's obviously not learning.
You know what? I have to hold my hands up. I don't know. I don't really like. If I don't know, I don't know. I'm just gonna hold my hands up.
Opinion. You're allowed an opinion, and I'll give you a chance for an opinion there. Because surely he's either a yes man or he's naive with just not learning of what he says. I mean, what is it they say? Everyone makes a mistake. You make that mistake once. You make that mistake twice, and you make your mistake the third time. Your choice. You're the idiot.
Yeah, no, I hear it, but the way that the journalist, the way she baited him, she got him nice. She was like,
she did.
She answered him a question, and then he was about to answer it, and then she did it again. Then she cut him off. And then she was like, and then obviously today he came out, and that's the reason why I put this up. He said, like, I don't see what the big hoo-ha's about, because everywhere I have been, I have won. It's a fact. Everywhere I go in my second season, I have won a trophy. It's a fact. Should I start lying about my achievements? Do you know what I'm saying? Now, whether he should have told a line and been a bit more diplomatic and said something a bit smarter and been a bit more savvy, you know, we can debate that. But the fact that, you know, he's coming out with his chest like, yo, it is what it is. But he's actually made it harder for himself now, because now it looks like, you might just have to win a trophy, my son.
Actually, I do think, though, there's something that, and it's fair enough to say he could have realised this sooner by now, but there's definitely a difference in the way the press operate in the Premier League in terms of how aggressive and toxic it is against, you know, the whole mantra of building someone up so you can shoot them down. Particularly in the UK, it's not a conspiracy theory. There are certain clubs that drive more revenue for broadcasters, and those broadcasters want them to tally more. They don't want a Tottenham Hotspur ever replacing a Man United. We're not going to replace the viewership. We're not going to have a Gary Neville that can go on screen from all that stuff. So they do want us to ultimately stay at arm's length from other clubs, and they do deliberately polarize it in the media and try and put pressure on clubs like us, label us as certain things to make it more difficult for us to disrupt that. And it is just part of the whole game. And I think Ange is used to going into environments where the whole fan base does a bit of a stereotypical insufferable Liverpool fan base thing and goes, hey, shut up. Our guy's the guy. Our guy's the guy. Not listening, hands on ears. What makes us despise Liverpool fans, basically, for what they are? And they just blindly back people, even when they should or shouldn't be backed. And I think Ange has come and expected that support from us. And he said it in his Celtic leaving speech, right? It was like, thank you for backing me. Thank you for believing in me in the start, because he was getting all the same criticism from the media, but the Celtic fans stuck with him. He expected it from us. And then we had the North London derby thing where he didn't get the rivalry to how deep rooted it is with us. And he couldn't understand why we wanted to lose to Man City in certain parts of the fan base. And I think they're now finding that our fans as well aren't there backing him. They're going, shut up, mate. And he's like, what the hell? Like, you guys are meant to be like all behind me here. And then what the media says is irrelevant because I know the board and all the fans are behind me. What Man United and City fans and Arsenal fans say is just social media noise that no one takes seriously. But he's found himself in an environment where he's got a lot of his own fans on his back, the media on his back. And he's got a really tough deal to get back out of that now.
Mm. Can I switch the conversation, Marlon, just to the Arsenal game quick? Because I don't know how much time you got left.
We haven't got much time left, and we've just had another super chat.
All right, let's get through that.
Another super chat. Yeah, let's. So, another one from Sav. He's got a question for panel. What will be your last straw? How much worse does the form have to get before you want him out? Generally interested to know your limits, which I think is a great question. So you don't have to, Dan, you don't have to answer this because you've already said you want him gone now.
Yeah, Dan's already there.
So I'll answer this first because I think I've already half answered it. So mine is May. I think for me, I just want to see someone given 2 years instead of 18 months, and then I'll make the decision at the end of the season. Look, I've already said I don't trust him at the moment with all the comments and everything like that he's been coming out with. I think he is regressing as a manager and everything like that. I do think that's, but I'm going to see what time does, right? Everyone is saying time. So I want to give him the 2 years. I want it 38 games plus 38 games, and then I want to completely judge him. So for me, it's the end of the season because I'm not expecting Spurs to win a trophy. I'm not expecting Spurs to get Champions League, right? And I'm not expecting Spurs to even win the Europa League. So for me, I just want to see if he can improve on last season. If he does, more for me. But if he doesn't, then I'll be with everyone else. That's where my limit is with him this season because I've given Conte 18 months, I've given Mourinho 18 months, and I've given Nuno 10 games. So that's where I'm at. Ash, before we
I echo the same. Because my expectation of him was I didn't expect a cup win in the second season, even though he's come out with his guns blazing, so I'm swinging. But I thought, it's going to be too soon for him to, lift the trophies. But a good cup run would be nice. Do you know what I mean? Just to kind of boost morale. But in terms of league position, I expected like a 5th or 6th. But what would it take for me to say enough's enough? Again, I'm with Marlon. Like we could, if we're losing in the manner of maybe like similar games where we're getting caught in transitions time and time after time, and he's not changing it. And we're languishing on the wrong end of the table. Say like we're still in 12th by February. Do you know what I mean? Then I think he has to go personally. Do you know what I mean? But if he's that, yeah. Other than that, if we're in the top half, I would say, listen, let's just go all the way to the end of the season, in my opinion, and we judge it there.
Jim?
Yeah, similar to you guys. Like, obviously, there's some extreme situations that could happen. Like, for example, if he goes and signs Timo Werner permanently in January, I'm done. But if we get, as long as we're seeing this, what I think so far as I'm seeing is some signs of improvement this season, which is I think we do look less exposed, in my opinion, on the set pieces and on counter-attacks. And now we've got a new issue of figuring out a forward play. I'm willing to sit through the process of getting that right, which I think will take at least 2 more transfer windows, i.e. January and a summer, because we know Timo Werner isn't the guy. We know Sonny isn't 27-year-old Sonny. Even then, he wasn't the ideal winger for this system. Solanke's going to need, you got to give a player at least 6 months, right, to bed in, minimum, surely. So I want our £65 million signing to have a bit of a run up to a season. So yeah, as long as we're in the top half of the table and I'm seeing some improvements, I'm going to sit tight. I'll be disappointed if we finish 9th or 10th or something, but I wouldn't be I would be saying, I want him to have 6 months into the next season. And if we're at Christmas at the following season and he's still making excuses, we can see the corner. I'm all for a change, but I don't see any name or any person or any benefit in the short term to switching prior to then, unless Xavi Alonso says, I'm a Tottenham fan, been secret all my life, and I'm desperate to manage you. Please take me. I'm saying stick with Ange for now.
Gary?
I really like this question. I actually had never thought about it. I'd never even given it, like, what is my breaking point with Ange? I'd like to think it is, barring like us in a relegation scrap this season, like if we're languishing around 18th, 19th, and it's December, I think anyone would pull the trigger then. But if we're again floating around mid-table, but I can genuinely see a way in which we can progress with this manager, a way in which if we get the right personnel, we can win football matches convincingly against the best. I would like to see it go into next season. I think we're going to finish 6th this season, around 5th or 6th. And then if again it's getting to the stage where we're 5th or 6th again next December, like Jim said, I would be getting a bit concerned, because then we're literally seeing just stagnation over the course of two seasons. So yeah, I think that would be my breaking point. I'll give him this whole season, again, barring any crazy situation where we're fighting relegation, and then yeah.
Can I ask you a question quick then, for you two? Yeah, I want to see. I want to see these two at the top, Jim and Gary. Since I get to talk to you two a lot, and first time I've met you two, been a pleasure anyway. How much faith do you actually have in this manager to like get it through? Have you got 100% faith in this manager?
That's a similar question I was going to ask Jim. Have you felt a wobble yet this season? I was going to ask you that question. Have you wobbled?
I haven't. Those who can see my channel can go on there and comment. You're a happy clapping arsehole. I despise you. That's fine.
Also Spurs people, by the way. Also Spurs.
Don't worry, mate.
My stance on managers has been, I was anti-Nuno from day one, and I was one of the toxic individuals saying, I don't want his brand of football in my football club. I hate his trainers and the way he wears his trousers. Get him out my club.
There is toxic on both sides.
Yeah, there is. It's on all sides, absolutely. And I've been the toxic one, if you want to call it that. Mate. Don't worry about it. I think what's best for my club is one thing. You think what best is another, and it's deemed toxic if you disagree. But anyway, it's not toxic.
But the question was, are you 100% behind him?
Yes,
that he will be here.
I was completely anti-Nuno. I was excited, anti-Jose. I was buzzing for Conte. I thought Conte was going to be the Champions Trophy, and I'm
let me just get this straight. I'm
100% in on Ange. Yes, I'm 100%.
Okay.
Can I answer that as well?
Go on.
I have been wobbling this season. My faith was 100. I'm sure my opinions are always out there. I was 100% in August. It's going down to the around 95, 90, maybe even the 85%. I'm starting to question certain aspects, which I'm getting concerns. It's wobbling, but it's still very strong, if that makes sense.
Okay. No, that makes perfect sense. So I won't bring this next one to you because you're not 100%. You've said you're 95. Fair enough. Each their own. But you, Jim, are 100% that this manager's going to do it here. Like, be here at the end of the season.
100% behind him. Of course, there's a.
But you're 100% sure that he's going to be here at the end of the season. That is what I'm asking. If you're 100% behind him, are you 100% sure he'll be here at the end of the season?
No, but you could be Pep, and I'd say no. Like, you could be anyone in the world. I'm 100% behind him.
You're not.
I have 0% in me saying get rid of him right now. But if he loses his next 10 games, that would change. obviously.
I'm asking
Like,
what you think now.
Yeah.
Like right
Here
today.
and now.
Right
Do
now,
you
right today,
100% think he'll be here at the end of the season?
Yes. Yeah, based on today.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. I bet you £100 here and now he's gone by the end of the season. The £100 goes to charity.
Yeah, done.
Deal.
Do you know what, Dan? It's going to be so funny if he is it towards the end of the season.
No, if I lose it, I always pay up.
Which
always
charity
pay up.
should we go for?
Yeah, that's a good point. Get charity down.
Great Ormond.
Spurs Kings
Anyone's got a
TV, by the way.
suggestion in the comments, I guess.
Great
Yeah,
Ormond
suggestion
Street.
in the comments, please. Suggestion.
Who
in the comments
am I
of the charity
paying,
it goes
basically?
to.
Who am I donating
Great
to?
Ormond Street.
Yeah. No. Yeah, we'll let
Yeah,
we'll
Great
let the
Ormond
chat
Street's come on.
decide. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Great Ormond
let the
Street.
chat
Yeah.
decide.
Yeah.
But quickly on this. Sorry guys, Levy is one because we have zero ambition and all the answers summed up. And I think I do agree with that statement in the sense of I've given up. The Arsenal game on Saturday was not like, for me emotionally, was the first time I came from that game, right? Emotionally me, and I checked out. Right, and you can tell, and you can go see the way if you go and watch We Are Tottenham TV, go watch the one where we lost 3-2, right, and then go watch the one where we just lost 1-0, right, and you can tell in both videos, yeah, I was fuming after the 3-2, but I checked out after the 1-0, right, and I think that's where I am. So that's why, and you're like, I'll say something, you're absolutely spot on. He has won, and he has broken me, and he has officially broken me. From last season, he has officially just completely broken me, and that's why, for me, Levy has won, right? But there's nothing I can do about it.
My brother, listen. Where it is for me is quite simple. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. I don't see any way out of this because Levy wins both ways. Are you crazy? Yeah. You think replacing Ange, we're gonna get a Tuchel, we're gonna be on stuff. Do you think Tuchel's gonna get backed? Think about it, deep it. You really think we're going to get top managers? Almarim. We couldn't afford Almarim. We could not afford Almarim. We wanted Almarim, but we couldn't. Levy didn't want to put the money in for Almarim. And even if we did get Almarim, you really think we're going to get players like Gyökeres, that's 100 million. You think Levy's going to spend that type of money? Do you understand? You just, brother, it doesn't make logic. Think logically now. Fans,
I'll give you some logic.
If you get what's that, Bournemouth manager, you think the Bournemouth manager is going to take us to Champions League? What are you smoking? Are you crazy? You think we go for, I don't know, a German manager? We're going to all of a sudden change? It's not going to change. This is who we are now. So we might as well. Sorry, Dan. Go on, Dan.
No, I get with what you're saying, but personal opinion.
Go on.
We go and get someone like Thomas Tuchel. We go and get Thomas Tuchel in. He's a man. He ain't got a job. Go put the money on the table. We all know money talks, yeah? We all know we can afford it as well. Because getting rid of Ange will only cost us $3 million. Hang on. Because the formation he will play will suit this team better. And I think we've got a team that is capable of getting top 4, top 5, whatever.
Hold on. You think Spurs are going to go pay Tuchel? Like, no, in all honesty, you just said go put the money down. If we're not willing to put the money down now, yeah, and we've had Conte and Mourinho, what in the world makes you think?
No, I mean his wages, purely his wages. Getting with the team we've got, and we'll do tenfold better.
Ange is on 3.5 million. Conte was on 15 mil, my brother. We're not. I don't think you understand.
We're not doing that.
Guys, are you saying like are you saying backed by like? Can you just explain like? Are we talking about like how much you're paying the manager, our transfer spend? Like, what's the all of it. Wages. The wages he said.
Wages. 150k now. We're not going to buy quality players. 150k is what Levy's saying. I'm not going beyond that. That's the reason why we recruited so many young guys. That's the reason why we didn't get the
I agree. I was just going to say, like,
even if we got Tuchel in and he managed to fix it, and he managed to give us a 3-5-2-1 game and a 3-4-3-1 game or 3-4-2-1 game, he was tweaking it each game. The players, brother, they're not going to be able to get all this instruction. It's just we're not going to reach long term. Short term, he might get us somewhere, like Conte did. But then when it comes into season 2, season 3, season 4, you think he's getting back?
That's why you go and give him a job. That's why you go. We always are with Levy, but that's why I personally would give him the job for the rest of the season, because I don't think he'd have to adapt much to the team, and the team wouldn't have that much to him because he'd put them in their positions that he knows they can play in. He would be using wing backs as overlapping, give him a year's contract, sort out another manager for the start of next season to redo it again. Now, thinking like Levy, thinking like, of course, but it's the only way it can happen, really, unless we keep Ange. And with that, Levy, we all know, what does Levy think? What does Levy want? What does Levy breathe? What does Levy, I mean, he probably loves money more than his wife. And so when it comes down to it, he's going to want that extra 40 million for being in the Champions League. And if he has to go pay Thomas Tuchel, say 6-7 million to do it for the season, or 5 million and that, and he can get 20 million out of it, because I think we've got a first 11 capable of doing it if you play him the right way, my man's going to slam it down and say, sweet.
Are we at the point, right? I'll let Jim come in. Are we now at the point? Because I'm getting this from a lot of people, and I'm kind of not with everyone on this. Are we actually thinking that most of these players are good enough? Because our front three is awful, and I don't get why people think we're good enough to even be making top four when our front three is Solanke, Son, who's literally, as everyone has said, over the hill, Brennan Johnson, Timo Werner, and Odebert.
I wouldn't play him.
So
not in my formation. No, I wouldn't play him. I'd play in a 3-4-2-1 or 3-4-1-2. Johnson, he's not getting in my team. Werner, he's not in my team. The only way Kulusevski's getting in there is if he's sitting behind with Maddison. I'd use Udogie as my left wing or left wing back, whatever you want to call it. Same with Porro, nice overlapping. Then I've got a choice in the middle, three at the back. And in January,
so my question is then to you: you think the players are good? You think the squad's good enough at the moment? Is that what you're saying?
I wouldn't say the squad, not at all. But first 11,
but this is the question.
It's capable. It's more capable if you play him the right way.
Okay, but what happens when you get an injury to Van der Ven and you get an injury to another key player, like we did last year? Right? Does that mean then that your expectation would then retreat because you're like, hold on, we don't have the best starting 11. Our squads are not great. Because this is what I'm saying. We can base it on the starting 11, but the starting 11 is not guaranteed to be playing the full season. So that means you're going to get in different results. Correct? Am I wrong, or am I chatting?
The only place we wouldn't be covered there. The only place we wouldn't be covered there as such would be centre back. We'd have to get another centre back. If things went, say, for Porro, he had an injury. On a worst case scenario, you can stick Kulusevski or you can stick Johnson out on the right. There's cover there. It's not very good, but there's cover there. On the left, on a worst case scenario, we've still got a bit of cover there, yeah? But as long as we covered that defence, we go play the way that suits the players, they can do better. Go get the most average team. You go play them in their right tactics, to their right way, to their right formation, you can make them a very good team. You go and get a team of Galacticos like Real Madrid did. Okay, still got Champions League, they always do. But in the league, they was always coming and going. They could never get it right because they had to pick all the players and force them in there. Same as England. If Southgate would have put players in their right positions to play their right way, we'd have looked so much better. And I think that's the same problem we've got with Ange, where he's playing players out of sync.
Go on, Jim. Go on.
Yeah, no, I was going to say there's kind of 2 points on that. I think there was discussion around, if we had, people call it "fuck you" money, where you're just able to overhaul a whole squad in an entire transfer window and drop 600 million quid. Maybe there's merit in more criticism to the current selection of players and signing younger players and getting a different manager who can come in and an Ancelotti, whoever, some big name who can buy all the players they want instantly and implement the system and win. But I wanted to know what your guys' expectations were on what we should be doing, because when I look at it, and I'm a bit of a finance nerd, so apologies, but I look at it as we're a club who have the 5th most revenue in the league this season. We've got the 5th highest wages in the league and the 2nd highest transfer spend over the last 5 years in the league. So to me, that is more that our ceiling frustrates me and our prioritization of who we've signed through crap recruitment frustrates me. But I don't think there's, it's because someone's saying, I refuse to spend it. I think we could spend more on wages. I definitely think we could do that. And that's what's holding us back transfer-wise from, and that's why we're being tempted into younger players. I agree with that. That's a flaw of the club. And I'd like to see us be the club that goes, they don't have to go and get, Martinez.
You
for
don't need
instance,
world-class players.
No, but you could go get Eze, like we said before, someone like that. I know he's the option.
Exactly.
We could go that step further, but I'm still going to defend the fact that I still think Ange needs another January, and history says we will sign 2 players if you go by the last 3 Januaries and spend about 60 million quid. And then one more summer of spending what we spent the last 5 years, an average of 120 million pounds net. I think if he spends that money and brings in 4 more key players and that attack still isn't functioning, fair play. He hasn't made it work. But I think for now, overall, it's been 70% hits, 30% flops on the transfers.
No, not a chance. Make it the other way round, mate. Make it the other way round. Because you said earlier, out of all the ones we went through, there was only about 3 of them that have actually been good. So
we only said there was 2 major flops. We only said there was 2 flops.
When you looked at the whole thing, there was only about 2 or 3 players that have actually made it into that team and done something.
Well, we said
anything else has been a flop.
We said Johnson was arguably a flop and Werner, but the rest, Maddison was 50-50 and the rest were good.
Everyone was on the fence.
Velez didn't even get in the team. Solomon didn't even get in the team and that.
We were disagreeing about everything he's got.
My man has had 400 million spent on him over the past, 3 years? And you're telling me the only real change, especially over this season as well, is Solanke. Sorry, 3 years, 1 year. Sorry, I said it wrong. That he's had over 300. That makes it worse, actually. That the fact that my man's nearly had 400 million spent on him, and the best thing that we've got in that first team, different really over this season, definitely is Solanke, and he goes and brings in Gray and Bergville.
Again, I think it's relevant though to flag that of 300 million, 110 million quid of that was going in the other direction because you lost Harry Kane and. There's just an instant drop off from that.
A question. Yeah. Out of that 300 mil, sorry, Gary, to cut you, go straight after me, but how much of that was Kulusevski money from that 300 mil, and how much 30. Of it was Porro? How much of it was Porro? Was Porro 40? That 40,
so 70 of that.
The 70 of that was, even though it was on Ange's. Do you see what I'm trying to say? Go on, Gary. Sorry, go on, Gary.
I think in terms of football finance, a lot gets said about transfer fees and not a lot gets said about wages, because wages actually sort of amount to similar numbers when you add up all the wages over the course of a 5-year period. They're very similar in terms of the transfer fee and the wages. Like Dom Solanke's off the top of my head. He's earning around 30-40 million pounds from us, I think, over the course of his 6-year contract. Did he get 5-year contract? And when Ange has been, if you want to use a figure like 300 million, if you look at the actual wages that are being paid to those players, 18-year-old, they are not going to be commanding salaries of anything more than 50 grand a week. The actual combined wage package of those players brings that spending a lot further down than the likes of Arsenal, than the likes of Liverpool, than the likes of Man City, Chelsea. And in terms of our actual backing of Ange, it's really easy to bring up that 300 million figure, but you have to holistically look at the whole transfer packages and who we're getting out. You're getting the likes of Perisic out, Dyer out, Hugo Lloris out, who are on these massive wage packets, and we're not reinvesting that back into the players that we're bringing in. So it's hard to look at. It's hard to sit here and say Ange has been backed. He's been backed. When you look at the wage packages as a whole, adding on the transfer fees, it's not anywhere near the ballparks of the likes of the other clubs in the top who are challenging for the top four, even Aston Villa.
Yeah, but he said he's been backed, and I think we could have made better buys than what we did.
And I guess that's where we're all falling on the point where Ange needs to have the mic taken away from him sometime.
Yeah. You know what? I kind of agree with Dan as well. But go on, Marlon. Go on.
No. I'm gonna ask one more question. I'm gonna leave it there. But I'm gonna ask you, Ash. You know your things for Arsenal. What we'll do, we'll make a separate video and load it up tomorrow.
Well, work, man. Just jump off the stream and I'll do it. You guys can jump off the stream. I'll carry on the live. And I'll just,
okay. Yeah.
Whoever wants to stay on can stay on. Whoever go to bed, I've got work tomorrow. Good night.
So my last question to all of you is: if Ange loses tomorrow, is that the end of him?
No.
Go on. Why? Gary, why?
Is that the end of it? I think for a lot of the fan base, that's a yes. Like,
Yeah.
I think a lot of the fan base that would be the final
Hey,
straw. And when he's come out in a press conference said I win something in my second year, then he immediately goes out of a trophy against the championship side. It's such a bad look, and I think that 95% of mine probably goes down to 70, maybe even 60%. That would be it would be a dark day on Spurs Twitter after that. I'd probably have to get off the platform for a day.
Jim?
I think Gary made such a good point. It's not over for me, but it's definitely over for him for having the majority of the fan base on his side, because I still think just about the majority are on his side. And I think that pendulum swings the other way. And then, because I think he needs to win this, because Brentford, people aren't really realising, Pep's just called them, like, have you seen all the reports about Pep's commentary on them? They're set up perfectly to play teams like Liverpool, Spurs and City this year, who play, very attacking front football. They've basically built this team around being an outstanding counter-attacking team. And you can just see the banana skin, can't you? And you can just see that and go, this is the worst time for Spurs to lose that kind of game, when everyone's saying, I've told you, Dan, they've ironed out the kinks. And then he go Brentford and concede on the counter, and I'm going, shit. Yeah. So if he loses that, he sets himself up all that extra pressure. So, yeah, I think he's going to lose the majority of the fan base. But I'll die on my sword with you, Ange. I'll still be with you, mate.
Dan?
Proper bit of Game of Thrones there, isn't it? Yeah. Personally, he's on borrowed time anyway. Like I said, I don't even think it'd be in January. But tomorrow, if he loses that tomorrow, well, look how much of the fan base he just lost through losing to Arsenal. We are one of the worst for it. If he goes out of that cup again in the first round, well, third round, whatever you want to call it, again for the second season on the trot, you're going to see a very high majority turn, and then Levy's going to say, do you know what, I need to cover myself, see you later, and it'll be gone quicker.
One thing with the angle of the League Cup, if we're looking at Levy as a businessman, the League Cup brings in no money anyway. It probably costs more being in the competition than it would.
I agree.
You only get 100 grand. So in terms of
for us.
For us, in terms of the fan base, a lot of the fan base would lose him. But Levy, I don't think Levy actually cares about the League Cup, in all honesty.
But he don't like the pressure of the fan base when it starts getting pointed at him. And that's why a lot of managers go, which is what got stated earlier by you two. When the pressure goes on them, he just gets rid of them and gets another one. So if most of the fan base turns on him because he's screwed up another chance of a cup, that even we'd be happy to just get a Mickey Mouse cup, for God's sake.
He might be some fans for him, though.
I'd be interested to see what Levy does, because I think in terms of a manager, in terms of a headache of a manager, Postecoglou's probably been the most easy manager to work with out of our last 4 managers. I think the board love the type of football that he's playing. They love the type of person he is. They love that he takes all the pressure from the board. He goes into press conference and says, the target's on my back. Don't look at them. The target's on my back. Would you really want to get rid of someone like him and bring in a Tuchel, where Tuchel 3 games in will start saying, it's not me, it's Levy? That's why I struggle to get behind this idea that Levy's really close to sacking Ange. I think Levy only gets rid of Ange if it's diabolical. I think out of all of our managers, this is the one he wants to work. This is the one he wants to stay, because
I get it.
I get it.
Because he's saying, because he definitely does. If he isn't a man's man sort of thing, and he is contradicting himself, and he's basically lying to us most of the time, then, but I'm still going to hold him to his word as respect to another man. Then, he definitely is Levy's yes man, because he takes even more pressure than he needs to, isn't he? So maybe Levy would want to keep him for that reason. But if the fans turn, which they already are, we all know 25 years of history. And like I say, I don't think Levy's changed his religion by any chance. He's gone. Baked potato. See you later.
I think Dan's got credence to his point. I think historically, Levy likes managers to get that top 4. That top 4 is crucial to his stadium builds in terms of securing corporate boxes,
hotels.
The hotel money, that, there's a lot of things riding on that. So I don't necessarily think the cup will exterminate him, but I think there'll be a lot of pressure, though. Don't ever get it twisted. I think he loses a cup, back-to-back League Cups. Are you crazy? After he said that, I win trophies in my second season. Yeah. Listen, the fan base is going to be unbearable. And I think there's going to be a lot of pressure because like Marlon said, like you guys said, even against Arsenal, a lot of fans have questions, are turning on him, looking at tactics. He's under a microscope. And the media love it. Love it.
Yes.
You know what they want? They want, come Manchester United, when we go to Old Trafford, it's an El Sacchio talk. That's what Sky Sports want. Do you know what I'm saying?
Of course it is. 100%.
I'm not. Listen, I'll contradict myself all show today. I think, you know what? Dan has made some excellent points, and boy, you know what? He might not be too far wrong.
If my man would just say or show he can adapt, I'll step back and have faith in him. It's the fact that he said he will not change.
But anyway,
hold on. If you shush for a second, let us all leave so you can do your damn tactics, right? But let me get the guest out and thank him for coming on, yeah? But you chat too much, yeah? So, Gary first, yeah? Please let everybody know where they can find you. And also, thank you for coming on today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, no, I've really enjoyed the show. I genuinely don't really have anything to plug. I'm not really making like content online that much. I mean, I'm on Twitter, I'm on X, but but I don't think many people would like to see my positive Ange Postecoglou quotes anyway. Don't worry, I don't need to plug anything.
No, thank you, Jim. Again, thank you for coming on today and making your debut on the channel and been so everything. You were so forward and you said yes straight away and messaged me back, so thank you again for even replying and coming on and being a great guest today. But yeah, please let everyone know where they can find you.
Pleasure, guys, and yeah, thanks to everyone in the comments. You've got a really great little supporter network there. It's good fun seeing them winding each other up as well. Nice to meet Dan as well and all you guys. You can find me. So Spurs is the main podcast, like Twitter thing, or on YouTube. But my personal one's Jim Spurs. The main channel, we don't talk about the ownership at all on the channel. That's our kind of promise to stay out of politics and the club on that side. So,
Daniel Levy.
If that's not your thing, stay away. You won't like it. But he's just. I've spent too long being married to Spurs, and that's resulted in me having a marriage to him, and I just prefer just not to be involved with talking about him on there. But talk about him on your shows instead. Anyway, thanks, guys. I'll just be on.
Oh, he's gone. He's muted himself.
You're on mute.
You gone, bro? Yo.
He's gone.
Yeah, he's gone. He's gone.
No, he's on mute.
Yeah,
all the best, boys.
All the best. Also, guys, on the way out, for those who are leaving, please make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Dan, Hotspur Hood, have you got anything else you want to plug as well?
Yeah, I'll have random stuff coming up sooner or later. Probably have something to say after the Coventry game. I'll leave it to see how that one goes. Pleasure meeting you two. Look forward to meeting you two again for another chat. Always fun and games. And cheers again to Ashmatic, Marlon, letting me on. Always a pleasure to come on your show.
Nice one. Big up. Also, I will plug it now. We've got a show tomorrow after the Coventry game. It is Rivals, so for those who want to hear a heated debate with myself, Deji, Jay, and a few other Arsenal fans and a few other people, make sure you guys tune into that. But as I said, the show's not over. Guys, big yourselves up. I'm just going to carry on with a few pieces. So, but yeah, thanks for coming on, guys. And I'll see you guys hopefully soon.
Thank you for having us.
Peace.
Take it easy.
Yeah, bye.
Take it easy. All right, as those guys go out, I'm going to bring it up. Cool. So this is the Arsenal game, guys. And I'm going to see if I can bring it up. I don't know what's going on there. Yes. So, yeah, basically, let's go through the tactics. I need to get rid of this comment. Here we go. We're here. See you later, Marlon. Big up, man. Nice one. Cool. Let's talk about these tactics. So Spurs versus Arsenal. The lineups are self-explanatory. As you can see there, we lined up in a 4-3-3. I wonder if I can make myself larger. I don't know how to do that on this. But yeah, basically, we had a 4-3-3 as we always set up. And Arsenal had a 4-4-2. So the 4-4-2 sometimes turned into a 4-2-4 with Jorginho and Thomas Partey playing a double pivot. I'll get into why that's important. And sometimes they played a 5-4-1 to be ultra defensive at times. Here's our average positions. The reason why I brought it up as well was sometimes we were quite narrow and sometimes we did play with a little bit of width. That was the little adaptations, the little tweaks we did as well as a team. Is Arsenal's average positions. You can see they played with majority a back five there with Timber, sort of Partey jumping in between Saliba and Gabriel in the centre back pairing. Also, we've got Jorginho there, and you also got not Jorginho. You also got Havertz, and you have Martinelli. You've got Saka out there out wide, and it's Trossard. Sorry, so Havertz and Trossard interchange quite a bit in that midfield, but I think Havertz was doing more the Ødegaard role from what I saw. There's where the substitutions that came on. There's a momentum bar where we had a line share possession. We didn't have that many strong attacks, so the momentum bar is not that high, as you can see. And SofaScore, they rated Romero quite high and Raya, even though Romero was a culprit at times for the goal. So XG, you can see the expected goals very low for both teams, but they edged it with that big chance. They had 2 big chances. We had 0, 15 shots, 7 shots of them, 3 saves from our keeper, 5 from there, 7 corner kicks to their 6. We had 13 fouls, they had 10, and we had majority of passes with the land share passes. On the XG, so this is the non-penalty shots we had. A majority of them were in the box. We had a couple outside, and you can see Arsenal's, they had less shots from those particular areas. Passing maps, you can see that Arsenal built up on the right-hand side through the goalkeeper, and Raya being a slightly higher than what Vicario was. So he was a part of the back three at times, and he started passing out into those channels with Ben White building up, passing it through. And at times, you'd see Saliba pull off into that right back position, and those balls will go into Saka, the number 7 right there. And for Spurs, we would have Van der Ven quite high up with Romero, and then you see the midfield 3 there with Kulusevski, Bentancur, and Maddison, and they would cause little triangles. You can see Maddison, number 10, linking up with Udogie, number 13, and Son making little triangles on the left-hand side. And you can see that Son and actual Udogie, if you look at the average positions, they're kind of more or less on that left-hand side. And you've got Porro, super high, number 22, slightly higher up with Kulusevski in the 21, and 19 there is Dominic Solanke. These are the players that had the most progressive passes and had the most progressive carries. So you've got Romero, Porro, and Udogie. They were out of all the players on both teams, both 11s, those were the players that were the most adventurous and most attacking on both teams. Here we've got Premier League table, just to talk about the opposition build-up completions. What do Spurs do when the opposition have the ball? How much time do we give them? How much time do we allow them to build up from the back? Spurs is leading the way. In terms of passing, though, Bournemouth is the top team for that. But in terms of us actually breaking down teams when they try to play out from the back, Spurs are leading the way in that metric. Okay, so right here, we've got Maddison picking up the ball from the centre-backs. And as you can see here, both the centre-backs split super wide in the 2. Maddison picks up the ball from deep in this position. And that's what a lot of people have been complaining about, that he's playing a little bit too deep for people's liking. I would suggest that Bentancur would do this role and allow Maddison to play slightly higher up. So I would think in the future, if Ange is going to tweak it, I would like to see someone like Bentancur or even one of the other 8s drop into this position. Maybe Kulu rotates with Maddison at times into that kind of number 6 position to pick it off one of the centre backs, just to allow some of our attacking players higher up the pitch, a little bit closer to Solanke, so we could find balls into the midfield. Bentancur actually drops off his midfielder just to create a little angle for himself. As he creates that angle for himself, you'll see Udogie find space. So Udogie is the left of him, and you can actually see Udogie pulling wide especially in the first moments of this game. So a lot of people complaining that Ange is not tweaking a lot of things, and he's leaving a doggy in those half spaces. He's too much in the midfield. But in this instance, he's showing a doggy actually pulling wide and finds a position. Now Son's in front of him, picks up that ball. A doggy first time, he passes a ball into Solanke. So Solanke drops in from that hole. He comes off that hole. He drops in deep. And what doggy does is he actually pauses on the ball. Sorry, Solanke pauses on the ball. Now, why is that important that he pauses on the ball? The reason why he pauses on the ball is he allows Son to pick up a position where he can run in behind, where he can make a decision. Rather than playing football at 100 miles per hour, Solanke is giving us a new dynamic by dropping into this position. And then he's holding up the play. He's able to play that ball. And Son makes a pose and run. So Son runs into the half space where we want Son, at the edge of the area. So now Solanke's dropped off and he's made an angle for Son. Son's in the box, in the pocket. And then that's where you see Solanke meet the diagonal pass. Diagonal pass comes across, and then you see that cutback, which we used to do a lot of the last season. We used to do a lot of these type of cutbacks, these type of plays. You used to see Maddison do a lot of cutbacks for maybe Udogie or maybe Son or maybe even Kulusevski coming onto the near post. In this instance, it is Son that cuts it back to Kulu. Kulu gets his shot off in between the two centre backs, and Ray is forced to save in that one. Maddison looking for options. Now, this bit here, when I'm seeing Maddison in midfield, I think Maddison needs to be a bit more brave because he's in an advantage position. He's in the midfield. Can he pick out any of the front three players in the final third? He actually opts for Udogie. So he finds Udogie. Udogie, again, our most wide player. And what Udogie does is he takes his man down the side straight away, takes on his man, takes Saka on down the line. They double up on him because they know he's a threat and he's one of our players that actually does have pace. And as a wide player, we can cause Arsenal a lot of problems. So they double up on him and they manage to retrieve the ball from him in that instance. The ball breaks back. Kulu finds the ball and he crosses the ball in. He crosses the ball and it comes into Johnson. Johnson manages to get something on it. And from that, we create a chance. And Raya has to pull off a phenomenal save to stop that actual chance. Kulu, again, in the ball, in the midfield, in this position, he does well to actually turn on the ball. He does well to turn on the ball, finds Johnson actually wide. But there's a problem here. And I've highlighted this because there's a congestion. And we've spoken about this being a problem where some of our players are getting clogged up in central areas. In this instance, we've got two players in the half space. Now, for me, the players need to have a better understanding and a better relationship of where they need to be and where others are going to be. So understanding the space and understanding, okay, if you're in that space, then I should be further back, or I should be hugging the touchline, or I should be slightly forward, etc. But this was a problem against Arsenal in a North London derby. Anyway, Kulu has enough common sense and he gets it back in his position and he manages to beat his man. He finds his way into the box. Now, my question is, shoot, make your mind up early. If you're in this pocket of space, you need to take your chance and shoot early. If you're not going to shoot early, could you play that pass into Johnson? Johnson's making that run into that half space. And you know what Johnson wants to do? Johnson wants to get that ball and just smash it across that 6-yard box where Solanke is. If Kulu plays that ball, Solanke passes that ball across the box and it's a tap in for Solanke and Solanke squares it. So for me, this is not down to Ange tactically because Ange has got the players to where they need to be in the final third. In fact, this is down to the players' decision making. So I would put the blame on the players and Kulusevski not making his mind up quick enough in those scenarios when you only get half a second to make a decision. And this comes down to football IQ. And I highlighted this last week when we was playing Newcastle. I thought this was the time when in the final third, we need to make the decisions. He takes too long to get onto his left foot to actually take the shot. And the shot is blocked because they've got 3 or 4 bodies in the way. The doggy again, finding space. This time you've got Son out wide. So they've actually changed it over. So on the left-hand side, they've kind of figured out that they need to sometimes swap over in their position. So you've got a doggy high up in the pitch in a half space, finding Son pulling out wide, and then a doggy makes the run where I've just pointed an arrow. So a doggy's looking at that space And this is what I want. Quick 1-2s, quick rotations. And that's how you beat a midfield block or a low block. And that's how you beat Arsenal. But instead, Son ignores the run of the doggy and it comes to nothing. It literally goes to nothing and we actually lose a chance instead of Son playing that ball. Spurs pressing in this instance. Spurs are pressing very well. You can see Son on the corner of the picture. That presses, that triggers a doggy to come in. Solanke gets involved. They all come in to press Party. They make a mistake. Solanke spends a little bit too long. So this is the bit where everyone's talking about on X. This is the bit where Alan Shearer criticizes Solanke for not being clinical and not having that instinct, that striker's instinct, that killer instinct. He takes too many touches, in my opinion. And for me, all he has to do is let the ball run across his body. Now, I've highlighted this arrow because I personally think he should let the ball run across his body. And look how much space Saliba has to make up in this screenshot. Look how much space Saliba has to make up. Like I've circled him right there. As I said in here, so the striker's instinct would be let the ball run across the body and then shoot first time. He wants to get a touch. It gets underneath him. So his first touch is baggy. He doesn't get out of his feet. And Saliba does well to close him down. And then it comes to nothing. And then we've no longer got a big chance on the stat sheet. So that goes under. That doesn't go down as a big chance. Well, in my opinion, that was a massive chance. Solanke pinning Saliba. I thought he did this really well. And not many strikers manhandle Gabriel or Saliba. And I think he did it well. And Saliba has to bring him down and has to take a foul, take one for the team. So it was a tactical one. I thought Saliba did excellent there. Spurs on the press again. It's another moment where Spurs press well. It's a 50-50, and I think the ref gives it to Arsenal. I think we were unlucky there not to get the ball because that's when we were doing our best work, when we win the ball up in those positions in the middle thirds or high up in the pitch. Martinelli on the ball, gets into this position, quite clever, gets down the wing, is able to get to that byline, crosses the ball into the box, into Havertz. Havertz gets a nice header on target, and you're seeing Vicario make that save on that shot. Trossard finds Martinelli again, and he somehow beats our defensive line. And I think Trossard was smart because what Trossard was doing, he was doing runs from not out to in, but he was running vertically and then coming short. Now, this is something I would like to see from someone like Maddison. When the spaces are tight, we also talk about being horizontal. Can we do are we too narrow? Can we open up the pitch? Can we be a little bit wider? Can we switch to play a little bit quicker to open up the pitch? Now, my thing is with Maddison, I want him to start higher up, a bit like how Trossard was in this. Come short, and that's how you create space. And then that's when you find killer passes and you find passes around the fullback. He's done that, gets him behind, finds Martinelli. And Martinelli has a split second, but obviously your doggy's covering up ground. And then that passing lane to Saka is actually lost and he's forced to shoot, doesn't wrap his foot around it, and then Vicario's forced to make a save in that instance, and he does well to get the save off. Maddison deep here, and as I'm saying, Maddison getting deep, getting into space, getting into areas where he can impact the game. What he does is he finds a pass forward, and again, I've spoken about Solanke dropping deep and wide to create superiority. What I mean by superiority is like a numerical advantage over the opponents. So the ops are Arsenal in this instant, and it's a 3-3. So it's just a case of us running off the ball. And what happens is Maddison falls over. Solanke's still on it. Solanke, can you find Son? Yes, he does find Son. Now, I said to Son, can Son get on a half turn and play a ball forward into Kulusevski? And then maybe we're looking like another attack. Now, he doesn't do that. And then the reason why I think he doesn't do it is because I think some of the Tottenham players are scared of getting hit on the transition. That is my reasoning behind us not being brave. Now, and that's nothing to do with Ange Postecoglou. That's down to the players and their mentality. And that's the reason why I was talking about players like Maddison, even Son's involved into this, even Brennan Johnson. We've kind of got this thing in our head where we keep passing it backwards. If we lose the ball, yes, we have to sprint back, but we need to have a different attitude moving forward. If we lose the ball, we need to hustle back as a team and win that ball back. But he's played it safe. He's put it back. And yeah, that's it. The last clip I just showed there was us playing in the back three, and Bentancur, so what he would do sometimes would jump in between the two centre backs, and sometimes it wouldn't be Bentancur, it would be Porro that would drop in to make a back three, and sometimes it was a doggy that would drop into a back three. So at times we were showing a little bit of adaptation in possession when we needed to. Arsenal remain compact centrally. I've noticed this one. And this is why we found it so hard to break them down, because they had 5 players, but we had no ideas. We didn't know whether if we could play it through like the needle of their defense. We needed players to get in between the lines, be brave, get on a half turn, and literally do quick 1-2s or runs off each other. I think that's where we were missing. We weren't doing runs off each other. We weren't running in behind. And last season, I saw Sarr box crushing. I saw a doggy box crashing. I saw Maddison against Bournemouth to score his goal. He was box crashing. These are things that we're no longer doing. We're no longer crashing the box. We're no longer running, getting players to run in behind. A lot of these players here are quite static, and they're not actually making any movements at all. I'm saying here, could Maddison play a risky ball to break the lines? You can see, look, Solanke's there. I want Solanke to stick it on Gabriel or Saliba, and that gives us vertical width, because if he's pinning his centre back, that gives space to other players to roam around that D I call zone 14. So could Maddison play a ball and be adventurous? No, instead there's no bravery, and he goes sideways. So again, all the passing lanes are back blocked up. We recycle progression. We don't panic, to be fair. We go down the sides, which is, I think, is good. Johnson gets on the ball, and then he finds that ball into Porro. Porro's now recycled. He's got into that half space. They've rotated where Johnson normally is. You're seeing Porro. So you are seeing players start to figure it out, start to understand where they should be. Porro gets into that byline. But now I'm saying, instead of Porro hitting it across the face of the goalkeeper, can he cut it back? Because there's quite a few bodies there to get to Solanke in that position. Can he cut it back into one of our players, and then they pass it back to Kulu, and then he has an opportunity to shoot? Doesn't happen. He plays it too close, and then Raya saves it. Your doggy, again, out wide. There's a narrative that your doggy's always in those half spaces. Our players do rotate, and this is what I wanted to bring to the table. I wanted to bring this to the debate. Everyone says, our players are always in the half spaces. They're not. They rotate. It's just that we need to see the rotations a bit more frequent. And I think we will start to see that as the season goes on. So Doggy, again, taking his man on, being wide. Saka's having to help. He's having to help Ben White, because Ben White wasn't having a very good game. What he does is he plays the ball into Kulu. Kulu collects the ball in the midfield. Doggy makes that run. Look at that run that Doggy's making. He's making that run into the half space. So what he's doing is a run from out to in. And what Son's meant to do is do this run from in to out. And that's how we create different movements off the ball. And that's how we break low blocks at speed. So Doggy's made that run inside. Kulusevski's on the ball. He finds him, but he does it a little bit too late. And the Doggy runs offside. But you can see, if a Doggy times his run, or if the ball's a little bit quicker from Kulusevski, the Doggy's on. It does break to the Doggy, but it's on his weaker foot. And he just, nothing comes off it because it's on his weaker foot. You kind of want sometimes a better player there, maybe a James Maddison in that half space at times to kind of break it up. But the ideas are there. It's just the execution, in my opinion, that's what's letting us down. So you can see green shoots, in my opinion, but it's whether these players are brave enough and whether we can do it in a consistent enough basis. Another Spurs press. This time you've got Jorginho on the ball. And that's another trigger. One was Partey, one was Jorginho. Another ball's pressed. We press. We get on that. We win the ball there. I'm saying, could Solanke spin off and give us vertical space, vertical width, where we can pin the team back? If Solanke spins and beats the centre back and he makes that run in behind, all of a sudden, Kulusevski has all that space. That ball breaks to Kulusevski, and it's a dangerous situation. He doesn't do that. Kulu holds onto the ball. I'm saying, Kulu, could you thread the ball? Could you thread the ball into a Maddison or a Son? So Maddison's next to him, Son's next to him. Could he thread the ball there? Again, it's about decision making. I've got an arrow there. I'm pointing an arrow to Son. I'm thinking that's the best option we should go for. Can he get it to him? He holds onto the ball for too long, and he looks like he wants to shoot. He doesn't, and it comes to nothing. And Arsenal, again, win the ball. And that, for me, is another big chance. And that's another metric that won't show up on the stats. Oh, we didn't create any chances against Newcastle. Oh, we didn't create any chances against Arsenal. For me, it's the footballing IQ. It's the speed at which we make decisions. And it's the actual decision-making itself. So, again, Maddison and Son, they come away with nothing. They actually jumped into the box. And we end up with no chance in that one. Here, we've got Son. For me, Son, take him to the byline. Take him to the byline. Maddison's in a good position. I'm not saying cross it to Maddison there. I'm saying take it to the byline like he did against Arsenal last time and then cut it back to Maddison. In fact, it was the other way around. Maddison was in this position last season and he took it to the byline. He cut back to Son. Son makes the run and he scores. I know Maddison's not as close to the goal mouth, but in my mind, that's got to be the play. Do you know what I mean? What happens? He passes on the outside of the defender, plays it safe. Maddison's receives the ball. Can Maddison get on a half turn? Can he do that? He decides not to do the half turn, cuts back on himself on the ball, and then he decides to cross it from that angle. What happens? He crosses it. And this is where people on X were saying, is it a foul? Is it not? I think it's soft, in my opinion. You got Timber all over Johnson. He climbs all over him. He sits on top of him, pause. And yeah, Timber ends up, the victor of the two, and it comes to nothing. A doggy on the edge of the box. And as I said, a doggy on the edge finds Maddison in this area in his pocket. Again, can Maddison shoot? Look at him. Maddison's facing the goal. You've got to shoot. I think a confident Maddison, I think he's lost confidence. And I think if Maddison here in this angle, if he gets his shot off, he scores a goal. Do you know what I mean? That's a prime Maddison. A prime Maddison gets out of his feet quickly and he shoots. And we've got a shot on target. It's a big chance. What happens instead? Look at this. He doesn't do that. He actually turns back on himself. Imagine that. Turns back on himself and he passes it out wide to Son. That is crazy. That's criminal. And for me, that's on the players. That's not on the manager. So it goes out wide to Son. Son crosses it back stick, and then obviously it comes to nothing. We don't get a chance off it. Spurs win the ball back in a defensive third. Got a chance to actually break on Arsenal. It breaks to Porro. It's a quick transition. Porro's breaking up the field. Johnson's breaking up the pitch with him. And I think it is Son that's breaking up with him. You can see Porro slows it down a bit. And that's when Arsenal get enough bodies to break it down. He eventually does pass it to Johnson. Johnson, he can delay it for his teammates to join the attack. He doesn't. He does on the outside, and it comes to nothing. He doesn't even get a shot off. It's just, again, some of these moments, people will be like, Ash, you're being too harsh on Johnson. But there's very few moments in big games when you get chances, and you need to be clinical. You need to be able to take your man on and at least get a shot off. And he didn't do that in that instance. Spurs press Trossard again on the ball. We do it in numbers. We do it in 3s and 4s. We actually win the ball. The ball breaks back to Kulu again. And you know what? I'm being quite harsh on Kulu, but I think Kulu had a great performance out of all the players. He actually did turn up. But again, I just question some of the decision-making. He picks out Johnson in this instance, which he does well. And again, Johnson just fires it over the bar. He's too wild. He gets his foot right underneath the ball and it goes over the bar. And it's these type of things where I'm like, come on, Johnson, we need to get that shot on the goal. Spurs win the ball high up on this instance. Solanke, should you have gone with your foot there and maybe tried to volley it? I'm not too mad at that one. I felt it was a nothing type of chance. It was a half chance in my opinion, but hey. Bentancur gets on the ball here. This is what we want to see more of our midfielders, getting on the ball, being adventurous, being front-footed. He passes the ball in that half space, which is a nice ball for Kulusevski to pick up. He gets the ball. He passes it into Johnson. Johnson doesn't do anything with it. It goes wide, and that's it. Mickey van der Ven breaking the lines from deep. This is what I want to see a lot more from Mickey van der Ven. I want him to start the attacks from deep because he does have that in him. He does have that engine in him. He does have that technical ability. He does have that pace where he can break lines through his dribbling. Can he carry the ball? Can he bring it up high? He can. He finds Kulu again. Remember, Kulu's the main man at the moment. He finds Porro. Porro goes out wide to Johnson. Johnson's in space. Johnson attacks the box, gets in that pocket area, tries to cross it, and he crosses it too close to Raya. And Raya's just an easy block for Raya. In that instance, when I see Johnson, I'm like, can you recycle position? If nothing's on and you can't get that cross in, can you kind of hold that play up and do something a little bit different? Maybe cut it back to a player here you can see on the edge of the box coming in. Can you maybe do something? That's me maybe being a bit harsh, but I expect a lot from our wide players. Johnson again, out wide, time and time again. What's he going to do with it this time? Gets the ball, breaks out wide again, goes inside this time, tries to enter the box. He tries to mix it up, do a little bit something different, passes it into Kulu. And then that shot is a bit tame. It gets straight down the throat of Raya, pause. And it's an easy save. It's an easy save. It comes to nothing. So again, you need your wide players to be a lot more creative. And at the moment, we're not seeing that from our wide players. And Johnson, the ball broke to him quite a few times. I've heard a couple channels and they were saying, oh, you can't blame Johnson because Johnson's not getting the ball. I've shown multiple times when Johnson has been in space, but he hasn't got that clinical edge. The argument could be, is Johnson a wide winger? Is he a touchline winger? A lot of fans would say no. Maybe we're playing him out of position. Could we play him as a wide forward or an inside forward, a bit closer to goal? My question would be to those people, can he shoot? Can he be a threat? He's a running behind type of player. That's his profile. But we need to create scenarios where he can run in behind. And I think the way you do that is what we were doing. I think we saw it earlier in Ange's tenure in the first 10 games when we were baiting presses. And people were like, Ash, we weren't baiting presses. We weren't doing that. We were. With Basuma and Sarr, I did a video on this where we're doing short little passes and people thinking, why are we doing little short passes? It's to draw teams onto us so then the space in behind, and then it looks like we're counter-attacking all the time. But it's because we're doing those type of things where we're drawing opposition out and we're finding spaces and gaps, and we're doing rotations with 2 or 3 or maybe 4 players interchanging into different positions. Another cross goes in. This time it's by Porro. Porro crosses the ball. Again, it's well defended because that's the type of chance that Arsenal want. They want balls into the box because they've got big centre backs that can deal with any type of crosses that we throw into them. So we were trying to go out wide. That was our game plan. Can we break them down? It is crazy. It's not happening. And that was my critique, because after that, it leads to the counter. Now, before I talk about this counter attack that leads to the corner, I just want to say about the attacking patterns of play again. Actually, you know what? I'm going to leave it to the end. Let's talk about the counter attack. The counter attack happens. Obviously, they get the ball out the pitch, and I think it's Havertz, or I think it's actually Trossard that wins that ball. It goes into one of their midfielders. Basically, it gets into Saka. Saka picks up the ball, and it goes off for a corner. And then from here, this is when it gets techie. This is when it gets a bit serious. So far, so good, right? You can see here, I've identified that we've got all of our players in our shape. We're in a good position. There's nothing wrong. We've got Gabriel, Romero's facing him, and you can see where he is. I've got him highlighted. You can see where he is. Kulusevski's marking Partey at the back post. And you can see some of the players are around Vicario in the 6-yard box. Ben White is trying to sneak in just past Mickey van der Ven. You've got Doggy there, not too far behind him. And so you've got the big players being marked, basically, being man marked, and the rest are zonal. So you've got, as I said before earlier in the show, you've got a mixture of hybrids and you've got a mixture of zonal marking. In the next bit, I've shown you Romero is no longer looking at Gabriel. He's looking at the corner flag. So his vision, he can't see where Gabriel is. He can no longer see where he is. So that for me is an issue. In the next clip, it says here, let me take these comments out. So I need to see the whole thing. So yeah, on the next slide here, It's not working. All right. So the setup is a mixture of zonal and as I said, man to man. And then, oh, it skipped. I've gone back too far. Ah, damn. I want to show the next clip. Basically, in this clips I was showing, Romero loses his man. It's completely gone. Yeah, Romero basically loses his man, and yeah, he doesn't get touch tight to Gabriel. Is basically what I was going to say. He doesn't get close, doesn't get touch tight to Gabriel, and that is ultimately the problem. And also, as I said before, Vicario, he's pinned to his line. He's not coming out. Here we go. Romero's completely lost sight of Gabriel. Gabriel's like running behind the main aerial threat of Arsenal. Doesn't know where he is. He's got no contact to him. And there we go. It looks like Gabriel is marking Romero and not the other way around. What Gabriel does quite deceptively is stay tight to Romero to make the Argentinian think he has the cover, but Gabriel's being behind him. That means he can deliver a nudge in the back, create a time separation with him, and then the ball arrives in the goal mouth, and we know what happens next. So another big issue as well, as I said before, no protection, a smart protection from the goalkeeper. Arsenal players have established territory and are leaning into Spurs defenders. Why is a player like Maddison here, hardly known as a warrior for his qualities, he needs some players in front of Arsenal behind him to protect the goalkeeper properly. So maybe a bigger defender on Vicario to help him with protection. Maybe a doggy should be there, not Maddison. Maddison's not the biggest of players, and that's where people are arguing. Maybe that's where we need a Dragushin coming into the side. But again, I think Vicario has to be a lot stronger in these positions and maybe punch over the wall and concede even a free kick. So it's just a poor job in general protecting the goalkeeper in this particular zone, and it leaves him scrambling, and Arsenal come up on top, and yeah, it just ends up in a goal, and that's pretty much it, man. I'm not going to go any further because the rest is damning. But yeah, guys, I just wanted to finish on the last few points, and I just think moving forwards, attacking patterns of play need to be established moving forward. If we're going to focus on attacking, I concede defending. We need to keep working on defending those transitions and the set pieces we've spoken about already. But I want to talk about attacking patterns of play. So attacking patterns of play for me, we're not having runners anymore. We need to get runners into the box. We need more fluid rotations more frequently. So that's what I was trying to get across in those pictures. We need to do more switches of play, in my opinion. If we do more switches of play, that stretches the pitch horizontally, makes the pitch a lot wider, and that way we can quickly break the opposition's defensive lines because we're shifting them from one side of the pitch to the other, and it creates gaps all over. When you do 3 or 4 passes on one side and then you switch it and then someone's free. Arsenal did it really well through Partey, Jorginho, and sometimes Trossard switched to play. We didn't do that enough. We didn't expose that. We've got players that can do it in Porro and Maddison, and even Bentancur could have been able to switch that play. Romero is one of our best passers, and I expect to see a lot more switches of play moving forward. Can we be direct? So can we be vertical and hit Solanke early or more often? Can we have the vertical pass to have runners in behind like Maddison, Doggy, and even like when Sarr comes on, can he box crash? Can we be more vertical at times? And I just want to see those type of things happen a lot more. Numerical advantages where we've got 3 or 4 players just moving fluidly. Can we do that a bit more? Can we create holes in the opposition's midfield and defense? And that's pretty much it, man. I don't want to bore people anymore. That's my analysis real quick. Well, guys, love for watching again. Please make sure you like and share and subscribe. And I'm sorry that I've spoken too long on the show. It's been a long show. My eyes are almost shutting as well. But we're back again tomorrow, guys, for Rival. So do make sure you tune in, and big up to all the comments, big up to all the super chats as well. And guys, I'll see you in the peace, man. Peace. Come on.